All right, good evening, everyone. I'll call a meeting to order. Meeting of the Carver Select Board for Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. This meeting is being recorded by Area 58 Community Access Media, Channel 9, and will be posted by Area 58 on YouTube as soon as possible. There are openings on several committees. Please refer to the front page on our website for listing and application. If we could all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Our community prayer. Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially, we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we have been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek. And keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen. Okay. Our first item on the agenda, as always, is citizens' participation. Is there anyone who would like to address the board this evening? All right. Seeing none. We will move along to the presentation of the Boston Post cane. We don't actually present the cane, but we do have some certificates to acknowledge some folks that have made it to their 100th birthday. Quite an achievement. First of all, the holder of the Boston Post cane would be Rita Kelly, who turned 102 on March 2nd. Quite an achievement. We also have some other residents who turned 100 years old. Alta Horton, who's 101, Mary Sears, who's 101, and James Hindle, who's age 100. So congratulations to all of those folks. I'm going to have to ask them what their secret is because someone's doing something right. Any comment from members of the board? Nope.
Just congratulations.
Yeah. Everybody good? Quite an achievement. Thank you. Next, we have King Richard's Fair. We've had some discussions of this previously. They have a new location. Tonight we're going to have a presentation of the traffic management plan, and then we'll discuss the liquor and entertainment licenses. We'll also have an opportunity after the traffic presentation for public comment, if there is any. Okay, I'll turn it over to you folks. And welcome back. Again, if you could just introduce yourself for the folks at home.
Sure. Can you hear me if I keep it like this?
Absolutely.
It's the folks at home you want to.
Yeah.
Pull it right in front
Pull
of
it
you.
real
Yeah.
close.
Holding right for you.
There you go.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm May Studley, producer and general manager of King Richard's Fair and Edithville.
And Ryan Roy, Vice President of Production for King Richard's Fair and Edithville.
Yeah, that microphone doesn't sound very loud.
Jesse Schwartz, General Manager, State of Minnesota, and I oversee all large-scale events.
Thank you. Can you just check that microphone and see if it's on?
Could we have Mr. Schwartz show his face?
Not plugged in, no. That would do
You
it.
know what, he's been up all night.
I think he has
Very sick.
issues with trying to present the track plan. That's,
Are we going to see the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
that's what we're here for.
You gotta say yes.
Okay.
There you go.
Speak it.
Okay,
Might
better?
also see it up here.
Hello, hello?
Well,
Testing, testing. Can you
there
guys
we
hear me?
go. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
How about that?
No, all good.
Sorry about
Could we
that.
have them reintroduce themselves?
Yeah, if you could just reintroduce
Okay,
yourself.
sure. I'm May Studley, President, producer and general manager of King Richard's Fair and Edithville.
Ryan Roy, Vice President of Production for King Richard's Fair and Edithville.
Thank you.
Jesse, can you?
Okay. I think Jesse,
He did.
Everyone heard me, or I can go
okay.
again?
yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
we
think,
did.
Jesse, I think you're fine. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so yes, I can take care of the presentation here. Sorry, I had every intention on being there today. I woke up with food poisoning and Yes. So here I am still in Minnesota. So here is what we'd like to present to the board. We do have a traffic management plan here for the King Richard's Fair. We've gone through this with the chief of police and the chief, fire chief, everything along those lines, and we've scrubbed this plan pretty thoroughly. For the traffic management between Route 58 and Tremont and 495, it's very similar to years past with everything when this was used as an auxiliary site. We're still going to have our normal ingress, residential, and local traffic coming in. Same with the egress and residential and local traffic coming out. We intend on adding variable message boards so we can communicate what is going on, such as stop traffic ahead, festival traffic, use this route, park and ride, any of those situations with the variable message boards as well. This will be part 2 here with Tremont Street. As you can see, we identified the Dunkin' Donuts here so we can give people a better perception of where we're looking here. And it's very similar to the previous slide where we'll have the ingress and the egress traffic mixed with residential and local, and we will add the message board here. From Route 58 between Rochester and Tremont. So this is where we start to see the differences here. So we're going to go from, on the right side of the screen here, we're going to go from one, ingress lane where, we're mixing all this traffic to about a half mile away from Rochester Road here. You will see where we start to have a dedicated residential and local traffic lane and then a dedicated ingress lane for the festival. Same coming from the north, heading south, we will have the same setup with a dedicated residential and local traffic lane and then an ingress lane, while maintaining proper egress for anyone that is traveling that path as well. And again, message boards are very, very important here to communicate the message of what's going on with traffic and to help ensure proper safety. Cone placement here for Route 58 south of Rochester Road with 3 lanes of traffic. You would see 2 sets of line cones down the road. This will help us create 3 lanes of traffic. We've gone through this with, like I said, with Chief Police, and we feel very comfortable with this plan. And we really want to see it get to a half mile so we can ensure that we have proper queuing lanes, and we're ensuring that anyone local or residential is moving along and not stuck in traffic. Cone placement north of Rochester Road here. Again, very similar to the slide below. We will lay out the cones into a half mile pattern here to ensure proper traffic for the residential and local, and same for the incoming traffic for the festival. Traffic management here on Rochester Road. This is absolutely one of the most crucial pieces for us here. So we do have an ingress lane. We do have an egress lane. And you'll see once you approach Ida Avenue here, that will be controlled for participant access only. We do have officers planned to be at Rochester and 58, and then also at Pine and Rochester as well to control traffic. Traffic management here on Pine Street. As soon as we bring vehicles onto Pine Street, we will have 2 incoming lanes of traffic. One will go right away into the turn lane, which will take traffic coming into the lot there. And the second lane of traffic will go to the second entrance, which will allow for us to take more cars off the road and park them faster, which keeps everyone happy so they're not waiting in traffic here. Standard egress if they are exiting out to the left on Pine here, and then anyone coming and heading, I believe that's technically southbound, I could be wrong, heading from the left to right here with the Pine Street, that would be a normal egress path. We intend to have an officer at our first entrance, which we call Kings Gate 1. That way they're assisting with all traffic and ensuring proper ingress and egress as well. Emergency access for the on-site here. So again, going back to the original slide here with Rochester Road, again, if there's ever an emergency, to an egress period here, we have 2 officers that are in communication with interstate parking in the festival. Upon receiving notice that we have an emergency vehicle coming to the site, all parties involved will start coordinating and they'll start going through their proper procedure here. So if we have a emergency vehicle coming on site during an ingress period, we will essentially hold the red line here, which is our exiting traffic, and we will push all emergency vehicles down there. They'll be uninterrupted, so they'll be able to go from 58 to Pine, but also they will have access to Ida Avenue. So this is a great scenario for the shoot to ensure that emergency vehicles can get to where they need to be. From the Pine Street view of things here as well, it's a very similar concept to what we just saw on Rochester Road here with holding traffic and ensuring that we can get them into the lot. The nice part with this as well is our team, if we ever feel pressure or we feel that we need to open up more space for emergency vehicles, we can dump all these cars that are in the blue line here directly into the lot and we'll get them out of the way. That is a nice thing about having 2 entrances as well. Just to show some access points here for the emergency crews. No matter where you're coming from in direction, we have access to the festival on site here. Ida Avenue will go directly to the back side of the festival with a dedicated fire lane that will have no vehicles parked on it at all. If they decide to enter through Kingsgate 1, which is right at the bottom here of Zone 2, they'll have uninterrupted access to get to any point inside of that zone as well. Right in Zone 3 is Kingsgate 2, we call that. We have a dedicated drive lane with a fire lane that'll take them into our Zone 1 or directly into the festival from there. They will also have access to go from Zone 3 to Zone 4 into essentially Zone 5 at the top of the screen here, which you will see another fire lane wrapping around the festival to ensure proper vehicle access. We do have another one. We don't really have a zone here to the top left below Zone 5. It's kind of the maintenance shed area. There is a gate, which we will call Kingsgate 3, that will be used for emergency access only. So if we do have emergency vehicles coming from that side, or they prefer to go through there, we will allow emergency access to come through that gate, which will be staffed, and we will open up that gate to allow for in and out access for any emergency vehicle necessary. That's kind of the gist of it when it comes to the emergency safety and the traffic plan here. The whole key is keep vehicles moving, get them off the road, but then while, at the same time, it is beyond important to make sure that we have safety in mind and we can properly take care of anything that happens for an emergency.
Can I stop you just for 1 minute? For
Absolutely.
Zone 5, how many cars do you plan on parking in Zone 5?
I would say it's about 150 to 200 tops. It really depends on the size of the vehicle.
I only ask because it looks like the access from Zone 4 to Zone 5 is pretty tight. If there were an accident or someone was to break down there, how would those people be able to get out?
Got it. So the fire lane that you see here for Zone 5, that is not public access. There will be no vehicles driven on that road. We'll actually be taking them through. There's a blue arrow here right before the fire lane, below the bottom of Zone 5. Right where the tip of that triangle of the arrow is will be a drive lane into Zone 5 for parking.
Okay. And
And there's a gate on the back of that, they said, too.
yeah, and that gate on the back of that, is that gate open or closed?
We plan to keep it open, but this is going to be a staffed area. So no vehicles will be on here. We'll be able to access beyond here. And we'll also have no public access and restricted access signage throughout the lot.
Okay.
I've got a quick question.
Of course.
Through you, Mr. Chair, from the left-hand side, Pine Street, that you start coming over, that blue line that goes in between the trees and such, what is that?
So that is the road still, that's Pine.
That's an actual, that's Pine Street, okay.
Yep. So it wraps between the pond there at the top and then kind of the housing right below the blue lines there. So yeah, that is Pine.
That is, okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
Nope.
I have
From
some,
the board, okay.
I have some
Sarah?
questions.
Ms. Hewens?
Thank you. My first question is, how are the fire lane roads marked so the public knows they can't actually use the fire lane?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you there. If you could repeat your question, please.
How are the fire lane roads, does our mics work?
It's on. You get it.
How are the fire lane roads marked so that the public knows they can't use the fire roads?
Great question. So, for example, coming off the Ida Avenue, we will have signage throughout, but also we will have everything coned off, which will force vehicles into specific areas, which will not allow them onto the fire lane. So essentially these there will be cones there not allowing access to any normal vehicle there, period. In between zone 1 and zone 3, that is actually that's going to be a main drive lane for us where we cannot park vehicles. The way we will line the lot will show that, hey, no vehicles beyond this point. Also, we will put signage in the lot that says no parking in drive lane. We will mark it with a fire lane as well, just so that way people understand the importance of it. And then going through into zone 1, that area won't be, basically where the two lines meet on the fire lane, the two yellow lines, as the one heads towards the top of the page, there's no public access beyond that. That's all shut down for private use, which would be staffed as well. And then for right around zone 5, again, we will cone everything, and no public vehicles will be going down those roads at all.
Okay, so not to sound too cynical, but a lot of times signs are not obeyed. Are these going to be manned as well? Staffed, whatever you want to call it?
So during the day, I plan on having 45 people on site. So we will be staffing all these zones, and there'll be key access points that I know AMA's team will have security services and all these things as well. So that is, a great question. We will, between signage, between cones, between blocking areas off and staffing, we will be able to cover all of this.
Okay, I have some more questions. So I have another question. Where exactly are the officers posted on Rochester Road?
Absolutely. So Rochester Road, we have one right here on the far right, which you see 58 in Rochester. And then on the far left, that's your Pine Street. Google Earth, I couldn't crop it perfectly. So the one here on the left is Pine Street in Rochester.
Okay, thank you. And where will all the regular vehicles go on Rochester Road during if the emergency vehicles need to get in? You showed, on that particular map, you showed a red line for the emergency vehicles and a blue line. Where do the yellow line vehicles go?
The yellow?
Yes, on a previous slide, you showed us the blue and the red, the egress and entrance people. But if the emergency line, which is red, is on there, where do the yellow people go?
Yeah, absolutely. So the blue line right now is representing our normal ingress traffic. The red line is showing where the emergency vehicles will go. So essentially, all exiting traffic is halted during this time frame.
So there's no egress. So there's no egress.
We can open up that lane of traffic for all emergency vehicles.
So where do the egress vehicles go at that point?
So basically, once
in other words, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Open up the egress path again.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
So my question is, are the egress vehicles going to be backed up on Rochester Road? Is essentially what I'm asking you. And I didn't hear what you said.
So we need to clear all of Rochester Road. So that is the key piece of this. So once we know that an emergency vehicle is coming, we will begin holding traffic at Pine Street and inside the lot to ensure that we're not letting vehicles exit to create any additional traffic towards Rochester Road.
Okay.
Once the emergency vehicles have access to the site, we will open up the egress route again and allow them free-flowing access.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And
Yeah.
the last one is, there are other ways to get there, such as Meadow Street, which is a very long road. What will you do with the vehicles who decide that they're going to be smart and use Meadow Street to get there?
No, we absolutely plan to, if anyone that wants to access the site from Meadow Street, that works just fine. So we don't anticipate seeing, too much traffic there. A bulk of the traffic is coming off of Rochester. But that allows for, our plan allows for everything to take into both entrances, our Kingsgate 1 and Kingsgate 2. So we can have vehicles turning in from the Meadow path towards Pine, and then also just the standard ingress path from Pine as well. I would say a majority of your vehicles will hit the first entrance on Kingsgate 1 coming from Rochester and Pine portion. Just the volume there, the additional queuing lane with the turn lane dedicated to the lot, that one will go a lot faster. And then the second entrance, which we'll be able to take again from Pine and Rochester as well, but it'll allow for Meadow and Pine to come into the lot and turn in unimpeded as well. It'll be, if necessary, we've discussed that, we'll see if we need an officer there, but at this point, we don't anticipate it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Ryan, anything at this point?
I think everything has been covered that I had for
Okay.
questions.
Go ahead, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's it?
Do you have more? Is that
That
it
was
on the
it.
traffic plan?
I think that,
That was what we had present, or saved, and if there are any other additional questions, I'm happy to answer.
Well, then I have one
I just
more.
got one quick question. Will there be any kind of outreach to the community showing them this plan? I know you're showing it here tonight, but are you going to be talking to anyone or having any kind of demonstration on site of it, just to show them what the plan is?
Absolutely, that's another great question. We've discussed that internally with Amy and her team as well. Once we have everything approved from the board, that's where we would begin the outreach. We did target, hey, let's pick a couple days throughout the month of August, and then I'm skipping July. Towards the end of July and a couple in August, and just open it up to anyone that wants to come on site, and we can show them. Previously, some examples we've done in the past is I've printed basically a 3x4 board where it shows all these maps as well. So that'll also help, so we can put them on, a stanchion and say, hey, here's what we've got. Any questions? Kind of like what we're doing now, right? We are happy to answer them. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah.
Ms. Ewens.
I'm sorry, I have one more for you then. Are you planning to use the message boards from Mass DOT at Area 5 in Taunton, the way they used them last year?
Yes, we use the same message boards, and then also, I believe they were from Carver PD, right?
We actually requested them from Area 5 in Taunton, but they belong to Mass DOT.
Got it, yes. So our plan would be to use the same ones and then just increase the quantity.
Okay, so are you guys going to get in touch with them?
Yes, absolutely. So once everything's finalized and you guys give us the green light, I've got a laundry list of things, and that's probably number 2 on the list.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Ryan, do you have something else?
Did we want to hear from the police chief and fire
Absolutely,
chief?
that was my
Oh,
next.
yeah.
Okay.
We have a number of folks here. I don't know. Okay. Just,
It's a spot here.
yep. Welcome, Chief. Thanks for coming in this evening.
Thank you, Evan.
And I'll just mention that we also have our fire chief with us here tonight. We appreciate you coming in. Chief?
Good evening. So we have worked together on this plan. I think the plan, as far as it goes in Carver, is very well planned out. We didn't mention anything about the alternate parking lot in Rochester. I think probably should talk about that a little bit.
About what? I'm sorry.
They have an alternate lot they're going to use in Rochester for overflow. And we did talk, heard the question mentioned about using Meadow Street. Part of our plan is to block off Meadow and the other end of Rochester on Waze and on Google Maps, so that people won't be directed to use those roads. We can do it just like they do in Foxborough, where we can block the streets out, so those GPS services don't guide people to those roads. So we can try to keep everything to Rochester Road, which I think will be beneficial to keeping it all in one place and minimizing any inconvenience to the residents while maximizing the ability to get the cars into the lot and make sure that we can get public safety vehicles in if we need to. Our biggest ones are fire engines, and having that egress lane on Rochester Road open that we can close, we can stop traffic with 2 police officers very quickly, lets us bring emergency vehicles in, and then even if the emergency were one of the homes on Rochester Road, we can then clear out that ingress line to King Richard's Fair and let them conduct their operations. I actually think that's going to probably prove safer than what we had on 58 in the past.
All right. Any questions for the chief? Okay, before we move on, we did leave a spot here in the agenda for public comment. If any members of the public have questions on the traffic management plan or any new items, are there any members of the public that would like to have anything to say? Okay. Yes, Ms. Ewens?
Chief, could you just repeat the last thing you said?
Which was, I don't remember.
That's what,
think it was
I
that it
didn't
was-
hear it, so that's what I did.
That this plan is better than what you thought our last
so,
plan was.
right, so by being able to keeping that lane open, the outbound lane on Rochester Road, using the inbound lane to go to the fair, and leaving the outbound lane open, we're able to cause less inconvenience to neighbors because they can come out and they can, if they need to get back in, they can go around by Indian and come back to their house, so they can get in and out. And more importantly, we can bring in public safety vehicles in that open lane with no problems at all. So if the emergency were at Edaville or the fair, or it was one of the houses along the way, we can get emergency vehicles in.
Okay.
And once they're in place, set up and ready to go, we can continue to move those other cars out of the way. And I think we're going to be in a better position, safety-wise, than we were previously when we had the 3 lanes in the middle of 58, and we get that all
okay.
tied up. When that was all tied up, my biggest concern, and I
Yeah.
think the chief's concern as well, was getting emergency apparatus into a problem. But this plan allows that, I think, in a safer manner.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I just quickly, so we do have a number of conditions that our public safety folks in consultation with the fair have come up with to attach to the entertainment licenses. I think we should discuss those this evening, but I have been informed that the planning board has not taken action on the fair yet. There are some items pending in front of the planning board, so I think a vote should be probably delayed until our July 1st meeting, where we have a decision from the planning board. So just so everyone is aware of that. Any objections to that?
I
from
kind
the
of
board?
had, I actually have an objection to that because we tried to get, there are 2 separate issues that we're talking about. The site planning board, we're talking about building some structures on the site,
Yeah.
which have absolutely nothing to do at this point with our with the entertainment licenses or anything else. And we're working with them, and they're coming out next week. And so they'll either vote yay or nay if we're able to build those for this year.
I appreciate that, but I think it's important that we have all the information in front of us. Again, I'll open it up to the board if folks have any thoughts on that, but,
I suggest we at least work through the entertainment license
oh, the
conditions
wording, we're going to discuss all the
tonight,
wording.
and then
Yeah.
after we go through that, maybe we can make a decision whether
Yeah.
or not we
Yeah.
want to
Mr.
hold
Chair?
off.
Yes,
Can I ask a question through you?
yes, absolutely.
So for the site plan review with the planning board, oh, by the way, my name is Greg Corbo, town council for the town of Carver. Well, I guess to back up, on the plans, I see there are the 5 parking zones. Are zones 1 and 5, were those previously existing parking?
Zone 5 was not, that I know of, but it's an area where we will be able to put cars.
Okay. And then there was an area that was for, what was it, like, the entertainer parking?
Oh, our staff parking
Staff
participants,
parking?
yeah.
So is that
That existed
previously
already.
parking?
That already existed.
That already existed. So, and one of the requirements for site plan review is that the planning board has to review any changes or additional parking that's added to a site. And I was looking at the site plans that went before the planning board, and I don't see Zone 5 on here as a new parking area.
Right, our engineer's updating that, so it's clear and colorful and everything for Tom, or Mr. Bott, and the site plan board.
Okay. And so, Mr. Chair, through you to members of the board, I mean, one of the issues for the entertainment license is that there's adequate parking and a decrease in traffic, and because the planning board still has to approve of that Zone 5, that's going to change the number of cars that can be permitted on site through the entertainment license. And so you may want to take into account the fact that this proceeding before the planning board is continuing.
Well, and that was my thought as well. But I do think let's work through this wording, and and we'll see where we go. So let's take it one by one. So I'm sorry, Mr. Cannon, did you have something you wanted to add?
Glenn Cannon, Mr. Chairman. I just don't, did the board want to see the auxiliary parking? I know it was shown to us in a previous meeting, and I don't know if MA is ready to, the lot in Rochester. It was part of the PowerPoint. I didn't see it tonight.
I would like to see that.
Right, and right now, we're still getting in some of our quotes for what it's going to cost to make it parking available. So right now, I don't have that lot to show you. It was on our plan, it's still on our plan, and I just don't have the slides to show you at the moment.
Is that parking finalized?
Yeah.
It is in the process of being finalized.
So I don't think we could vote on the entertainment license, which controls which includes the traffic control plan, if that auxiliary parking is not finalized.
If that auxiliary parking is not finalized, we will find another one. Otherwise, we will just limit it to what's in our own lots.
Okay, well, again, I think it's in our best interest to go through these conditions, but probably delay a vote till our July 1st meeting. That's what I would recommend.
Mr. Chairman, one other thing I would say, I also believe Zone 1 is new parking also, isn't it? That's on the other side of the berm. I don't believe that's an
It's not
existing
new.
parking.
It's not new parking. It's always been there. It's just we are using it for our participants. We're not opening it up to the public.
Zone 1?
Zone 1. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's on the side. No, Zone 1's always been there.
I know it's always been there, but has it ever been a parking?
Always parked. Cars there.
I don't recall
I don't think,
I don't think so. It's the other side of
that
the
Zone
berm.
1 was used.
Nope.
Maybe Mr. Cotter knows. If-
Can we show the plan?
Oh, it's
Yeah, zone 1 was never used for parking.
Right.
All right.
I didn't think it was.
I
No,
didn't think so either.
I didn't, it either.
So does that
Zone
have to
1
be
never was
approved
used.
by the planning board?
Yes.
Yes.
As additional parking?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I would think, so, yeah. And that's certainly part of the traffic control plan, so, okay. Well, that's just another question I think we need to get answered before our July 1st meeting. So, the first condition, I think it's fairly simple. The fair operator will comply with the traffic control plan dated 6/12/25. Any issues with that by anybody?
I would have one in there.
Okay.
I would like to have the traffic control plan itself actually dated, so we can reference it back and forth.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we'll leave that open, and you can get everything dated for the next meeting. Anything from you folks on that?
No?
Just jump in if you have something. So, item 2, I believe the fair, we had some wording worked out. The fair had some alternate wording that they suggested, and I think we have a compromise language with Mr. Cannon on that. Do you have that language?
Is it on the board?
No, I don't think it is. I think it took place, I think Shelby was taking notes
I have
on that earlier?
Mr. Chair.
Do you have that?
Yes,
Okay.
through you. So the suggestion from the applicant was parking shall include the fair site, quote-unquote, the fair lot, and auxiliary parking lots with S in parentheses contained in the traffic control plan as it may be amended and approved by the select board. And we would just propose a minor change that instead of and approved by the select board, it would just say with the approval of the select board. So that, to mean that any change in the plan
Right.
requires the approval of the select board.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
No-
thank you.
No issues there. And just, again, right now, we hope to approve 2 lots, the Edaville lot and the Rochester lot. If somewhere down the road,
I understand.
other lots became apparent, they wouldn't be allowed to be used until we came back and approved the,
Absolutely.
okay. Okay, number 3, I think The fair's suggestion was parking shall be limited to 2,900 vehicles in the fair lot. Any issues with that number by anybody? Chief, any issues?
Again,
There.
we're going on what they're telling us for that, so I don't know if that's a number given to us by the fair, so I'd have to accept it.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So again, I think the number is going to depend upon what the planning board approves.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely, and that's,
Yeah.
okay. But for now, if the planning board approves everything as written, nobody has an issue with that number.
So is that the total number of vehicles?
That's the total numbers in the
On-site.
parking lot at Edaville.
Zone 1 to
Edaville.
5.
So what's the total of all vehicles?
It's,
Yeah, I don't have a number for the Rochester.
It will depend on the lot. It also depends on what type of vehicles. If you have smaller vehicles, you'll fit more cars, and if a truck or something, it all depends. It's kind of, you deal with real time and how many cars you're getting versus trucks versus SUVs. It all depends. It's done in real time, just like it always has been.
Well, again.
So how do we fill this out? There's a blank here.
Well, I think the blank.
2,900 is a suggestion.
Yeah, 2,900.
No. After 2,900, there's this clause that says, when the fair lot is full, the Rochester lot may be used to park additional blank vehicles. No more than a total of blank vehicles will be parked at any time.
Yep, and I changed the wording on that after talking with our council as well, so that once we know exactly what the lots are and what they can accommodate, we can add that in there.
Okay, do you think you'd know that by our next meeting?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so if you could get, so that way we can
Yeah,
update.
that total number
Yeah.
needs to be in there.
And again, I don't want to go over this too many times, but
Sure.
it's really key that we don't sell more tickets than we can accommodate in those lots, so that we don't have people
We are
parking
very
on
much
the
on it,
street.
as you know how hard we've all worked on
Sure.
it, so yes.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I believe that 2,900 for the vehicles in the front field lot, I mean, based on experience, I think the front lot can hold that, but again, you can wait for the planning board to do their thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think there was any issue with anybody on number 4.
I have something to add to number 4.
Okay.
I'd like to add that the fair operator shall post electronic message boards available for Mass DOT at Area 5 in Taunton. Those are the official message boards. Chief, you remember that last year? We got those from,
Yeah. Chief, can you, do we plan on using the Mass DOT boards, or do we have enough?
So we have 4 that we
On the
can use,
highway.
but if
You
you're going
have
to use
one
any on
board,
the...
right?
We have 5 boards right now.
5 boards.
Yep, we purchased them last year, but, so
but
we
if you
have 5
need
that we can
more,
use. But
you can get them from this.
yes, yep. We did use 2 from Mass DOT last year, one down south and one up north, that was changeable by Mass DOT. And we would probably need those on the off-ramps coming off the highway.
Okay, so you have enough boards?
No, we don't have enough boards that's on the plan right now, but we're going to have to get more. And we're going to need to talk to Mass DOT about the highway off-ramps. Those, they would have to place those. We couldn't place those.
Okay.
But that is part of the plan to talk to them.
Okay, and that's free of charge for the town, right?
As far as I know, yes. There
Okay.
was last year.
Okay.
Well, the state will supply them. I mean, it's going to, if we don't do that and we back traffic up onto the on-ramps, we're going to have a big problem. So
Yeah.
they'll be part of that, I'm
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so can you read, do you have an amendment to that condition number 4?
Yeah, the fair operator shall post electronic message boards available from, if necessary, available from Mass DOT at Area 5 Taunton. Something like that. Why do you want that phrase, Chief? Does that sound good?
That's fine. We're going to, like I said, I think Jesse mentioned we're going to speak with them ahead of time to make sure those are in place.
Okay.
Because we can't, I don't think they're going to let us put our message boards out there, plus those message boards would be in Wareham.
Right.
So we'd have to talk to them in Wareham.
Well, I just want it in the conditions so that the applicant is aware that you're going to do this and that they need to let the public know. Okay.
Any issues with that?
No.
Okay. We'll get updated language to you before the next meeting, so you
Okay.
can take a look at it, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. I think number 5, the fair suggested that we eliminate number 5. I think we've talked about this before. This addresses whether any tickets are sold at the door, and this has come up. I assume you're primarily planning to sell tickets online?
Yeah, so 95+% is all done online because people are, it's now dated tickets, so they all want to get it for a date. That way we can control it. You're going to get a few stragglers that come in and said, oh my God, I forgot to get an extra ticket for my kid, or I don't have a credit card, I couldn't buy in advance. Those are the kind of things that we see. It's hardly anything that comes in at the gate.
And I guess, and I have discussed this with Chief, but I guess my thoughts on this is, by the time someone gets to the gate and wants to buy a ticket at King Richard's Fair, they've already driven through town, they've already created whatever traffic they're going to create, they've already parked their car, so all that's done. And by not selling them a ticket, we might create more problems, not less. I think it's important that the fair understands that they sell the majority of tickets online, so that we can manage those cars coming in, and if something happens and they're not, and cars end up parking on the street, then obviously we're gonna have an issue, we're gonna have to come back. But I personally think that if we were to hold to number 5, that might create more problems.
So,
Then-
Mr. Chair, if I may, what if we got rid of the first two sentences? I mean, I think the rest of it is perfectly valid. Don't they need a separate parking pass for each group
No,
of tickets?
we don't do parking passes for a number of reasons. It'll slow traffic down and back it up. When most people come in with their tickets on their phone with a QR code to scan, so there's really no way to control that. It would back traffic way up if we had to stop and look for each vehicle. And this isn't any different than last year. So that's why,
Yeah, I'm okay with striking 5.
Yeah, I think we had the same discussion
Yes,
last
okay.
year.
Yes.
Chief, do you have a comment
I'm
on
just
number 5?
wondering why this is still on here then, if everyone took it off last year. It must have been important for some reason.
Yeah, I
it
don't
was
know
never
how-
on it last year. It was a new thing for this year for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from, quite frankly, but,
Well, I like the idea of it, but I agree that I think it's going to, it could cause more of a backup than anything else.
Right.
yeah. Do you have any comment, Chief, on
No, I
number
agree.
5?
I agree.
So no one's enforcing how many vehicles are going to be there?
Well, I think the enforcement measure on how many vehicles are that if they can't accommodate the vehicles in the parking lot, and we have a problem with on-street parking, then we're going to be having an emergency meeting to address that, like we did a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
when
it was
that
Yes, I
like
became-
3 years
understand,
ago.
but-
And that's why we worked hard with DPW too, putting no parking. It's on our website, it's on their ticket confirmation. It's everywhere we can post it. As well as the minute we get to our capacity, we have our PR team put it out on social media as well as our website. And so we direct traffic. Last year it went very smoothly, and we would like to continue to operate in that same manner. We don't want any traffic backup. We don't want anyone parking on people's lots. And we worked really hard through that with all the chiefs and that traffic planning committee that we put together 2 or 3 years ago, so that wouldn't happen.
Okay, I would just rather avoid having an emergency meeting, but, no.
No, so, believe me, so would I, and I think we didn't need one last year, and I'm
Nope.
hopeful that working together, we won't need one
Agree.
this year. Number 6, so again, the fair did have some suggestions there. And Ms. Hewens, I know you had a question about bus transportation.
I did, and my concern last year was that this wasn't part of the concern, but the fair had established some kind of agreement with the bus drivers at the school under our superintendent. He had also signed off on it. But when the fair started, they were on standby, and they were not being used.
Sure, so if I can comment on where you're going with this, our weekends don't get really busy till probably halfway through the show. So they are on standby. I have an agreement again with the superintendent and the school and the drivers, and we talk each week. I know an idea of attendance ahead of time. I know if we've sold X amount of tickets ahead of time. And so I know that after 44 years of doing this, when our busy weekends are. And so those are the days where we never need buses for the first 3 weekends easily. However, we will talk, we will see in advance if we need the tickets or the buses, and we put enough buses on hold. And there were so many days I had buses there and no one showed up. And they called and said, can we go home? We've been sitting here for an hour or 2 hours and no one's showing up. So we work with them.
No, and I appreciate that. I'm just concerned because I don't want buses just on standby. I want it to say that when the buses are needed, they're there.
So-
That's who you're employing and that they will be there.
So do you have a signed agreement now by the superintendent? Is it possible that you could get us a copy of that agreement so Ms. Hewens could
Yeah.
take a look and see if that works?
Yeah,
Okay, okay?
because we don't want
So
some
I
sort
think
of
that-
emergency
I think
to happen.
when you're saying
and
standby
try to
there,
call-
I apologize,
Excuse
I'm
me.
sorry.
So we don't want some sort of emergency to happen where, you try to call the bus drivers and they said, oh, well, you didn't seem to need me, I'm out of town. No.
No, that's not how the agreement is.
And I think that's what I apologize for jumping in there. I think that when you're saying standby, the standby for us is that they're on standby to be used. So we through that agreement, we'll check in with them on the Friday afternoon. And as Amy said, depending upon the numbers that she is seeing at that point in time, we would either schedule them to come in and be utilized. And then if not, if it's a lower number, then she's not going to put them on. So that's the agreement with them to make sure. So they're there if we need them, and then should we not, they're aware of that.
Okay, so we can see that, we can have that agreement?
Yeah, if you could
Yeah,
get a
absolutely.
copy of that agreement,
I will
to
send it.
Mr. Cannon,
Yep.
that would be great.
That would be great.
Thank you. Okay.
I do have a question
Oh,
on
I'm sorry,
number
Mr.
6.
Ryan.
So I noticed that the theme is that you've removed Rochester lot and just said auxiliary lot, because that gives you the option of going other places. But I guess the question is, all the planning's been done around that with the cones and the streets, so that's kind of why we're saying that if something is to change, then that whole plan has to come back here, because everybody has to be able to weigh in on that plan, and
Right.
it kind of invalidates the license, so to say, if you don't use that, because that's what's been approved to date.
Right.
Well, we have options to handle that. So
Yeah.
hypothetically, that's not a lot we're going to be able to use if we decide after getting all of the information in. I mean, we're able to use the lot, but there's still a few details that we need to work out, both financially and, anyway. So if for some reason it comes to a point where we don't get an auxiliary lot, then we're going to limit parking just to the Edaville lots, and we are going to lower the amount of tickets that can be sold to accommodate that. The last thing we want is traffic problems, emergencies, anything.
Okay.
That's great. Now, again, I don't want to harp on this. I just think it's important that we reiterate it as much as possible, that everything we're doing is based on a traffic control plan that has a lot at Edaville and an auxiliary lot in Rochester. And if that, for whatever reason, that auxiliary lot in Rochester doesn't happen,
Right.
well, that is going to invalidate the traffic control
Yeah.
plan. And now we'll have to come back, and either A, you're just going to use the lot at Edaville and nothing else, and we
Yeah.
can discuss that, or you're going to come with us with another lot, and that's going to require an
Yeah, so
additional-
the traffic control plan will stay the same when we look at it in regards to traffic coming into Rochester Road, Pine, and into our lots. The only thing that would change is if we get an additional or a different auxiliary lot.
Yep.
And again, in the worst, and to say that we're not going to probably even need these lots till the middle of September. So just for parking purposes, because that's not when we get busy until then, after, the first 4 weekends.
Okay.
And that's based on 44 years of history.
Okay.
The other thing is that, again, if we switch auxiliary lots, yes, that traffic plan will be amended to show where we will park cars and how that will work. And again, we will work with all of the chiefs to make sure they're okay with that first before bringing it to you guys.
Okay. Mr. Ryan.
So what I'm trying to be careful about with issuing the entertainment license, because it right now is kind of subject to that, so that would mean that it would be invalid. So we need to make sure the wording in here is such that, if you're going to use another lot, that I'd like to be able to work that into the language somehow, so that, as an option, because again, if we're approving it based on Rochester, that may not happen, and then that would just mean your entertainment license is not valid anymore, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'd rather have a valid license that can, we don't have to modify or change.
Yeah, and I agree with you, trust me. This whole move in 2 days from one site to another site and doing everything that we've been doing has been very difficult, which I'm sure you can imagine after being in one spot for 44 years. So we're working on all of this. we could have language in there that limits the traffic plan to the main Edaville lot and keep that in there. And if we are able to or need to get a different auxiliary lot, then we would come back to you to increase that traffic plan footprint, if that's what you need to say.
And you think there's a good chance that by the July 1st meeting, you'll have some firm decision on the Rochester lot, right?
That is absolutely true, yes.
So if you could just keep the town administrator advised, so as soon as you get that information,
Absolutely.
you could update.
Absolutely.
them. Okay. I think, any other questions on number 7? Mr. Carter, do you have anything?
Yes, I got a question on it. Well, I guess, I think my question had to still do more with 6. So just so I'm clear, and I think I understand what that is. Right now, you're selling tickets, correct?
Correct.
That was a yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was
Yeah.
correct, yes.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of what comes first, the chicken or the egg, meaning if you know you had your parking, additional auxiliary parking, then you could sell more tickets. I think what you're saying is you don't have it just yet, so you're gonna limit your tickets to just the Edaville lot. I'm just saying, I'm a little bit concerned that you'd be selling more tickets, assuming you're gonna have this extra parking, and then you might have a problem if it doesn't materialize. But you're saying you're only selling tickets right now on the space that you have in the current lot, correct?
That's correct. And the way our tickets are usually purchased are people look at the weather and then they say either on Friday or the day of and Saturday, Sunday, that's when they're going to want to come. So if I know that we, for some reason, don't have an auxiliary lot and we are limiting the tickets sold just so that we can accommodate cars in that one lot, I mean, our main lot, then I'm going to cut down the number of cars, I mean, the number of tickets sold. I have that ability to do it right on the spot if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
just real quick, so how do you do that? I'm just curious.
Through our ticketing site,
System.
our ticketing system.
So you just suspend the tickets?
Or set a
I would just say
maximum.
sold out and I'd lower the number.
Okay.
Yep, it's very easy to do if I need to.
Can
Thank
I
you.
just
Or
ask
he
you
needs
a
to.
quick question on tickets? So if somebody buys a ticket for, I'm just going to pick a date here, September 3rd, and on September 1st, they look at the weather and there's going to be terrible rain and they don't want to go, can they go online and switch tickets to another day, or you know, is that the date they go to fair?
No, so, well, they have two options. Yes, they can switch the ticket to another available day. So if it wasn't sold out for some reason, they can absolutely do that. Or a new thing that we've added this year is called ticket insurance. So if someone, just like when you're flying on an airplane and it says if you want to, you know, make sure that you can get a refund for your, we've added that to our ticketing site as well. So they have that option. But yes, they will have the option to transfer to a different date if it's available.
But only if it's available. So they couldn't create a situation where there's Saturday was a terrible day, Sunday's beautiful, so all of a sudden Sunday
And we've had those situations.
I'm sure.
So no, if it's sold out, it's sold out. They can't buy tickets.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay, so then we get to number 8. And again, this is one where we had some wording. The fair came back with some suggested wording, and we have some compromise wording.
Mr. Coble, do you have the list?
I think is this the one that says the fair operator shall retain at least 12?
Yeah, we
So
should
the-
have all that wording,
so
Mr. Cannon. We
I think
did all
the
that.
suggestion is that we just say the
We just
fair
can't put it
operator
in.
shall retain at least 12 at the discretion of the police chief.
So it's 12, 12, and 12?
No.
No.
No, because we don't, I guess we do not need, we have not in the past had a detail of firefighters and EMS workers. That has not been the case. It's only been police officers. So I think that we'd like to keep in the fair operator shall retain at least 12 detailed police officers at the discretion of the police chief. I think that's.
Yeah, Chief Dufley, could you speak to that for a minute? Item number 8.
So we currently have, what we've done in the past has been 12, and I think we should stick with that number for now. I don't, you know, we're still new into this. It's a bigger square footage area, so we may need more, and we may need more depending on the streets. But we had 12 before. I think we should start with that and then expand if needed from there. And in the past, we've never detailed firefighters or EMTs to the fair.
Okay.
I've spoken with both the fire chief and the EMS chief, and they're on board with that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Through you, can I ask, do you have private security as well?
We do have some private security, yes.
How many?
I would say probably 5 or 6.
5 or 6. And earlier you talked about 45 people. Was that just for the parking lot?
Yes.
That is what Jesse said, just for the parking lot.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So the recommendation for number 8 is just to, I think everything had been struck out of it, but just leave in the fair operator shall retain at least 12 detailed police officers at the discretion of the police chief, if that's possible to leave that in.
And I think you should keep the last sentence.
Well,
The fair shall be responsible for paying the full cost of these details.
We always have paid
yeah.
for all the
Yeah.
details.
And the wording wasn't correct.
I think the chief could speak to that.
So yes, the fare's always paid. We
But that's because it's been in the agreement.
Well,
No.
even before the agreement, they've always paid. But we
Okay.
do a billing on a weekly basis, and the fare is right on top of that. We had no issues with
Okay.
the fare paying last year or many of the years before.
Okay.
Okay. So do you have issues with the 12 police officers?
Not as long as we keep in that, that the chief, police chief and I will discuss it like we always have for the past God knows how many years.
Chief, any issues with that? No. Okay,
That's all
so,
we've
Mr. Cannon, if you can get some wording
Sure.
written up on that and get that to everybody?
Yeah.
Right, any questions from anybody? Mr. Carter? Anybody?
Nope.
All right. Moving right along, so number 9, there was no
There is an amendment for number 9, so it would be that you would just say the police chief, in their sole discretion, may require additional officers be added. It does say public safety chiefs in the wording now. It probably should remove that and just say the police chief and...
There was an
and-
amendment, I don't have that amendment, there was an amendment
Yeah.
to that? Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the discussion.
All right.
I don't,
I took notes.
okay.
I wrote it down.
That may have been when I was out of the
So-
room, okay.
So it says the police chief, if you could just replace public safety chiefs with police chief in that wording.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so again, Mr. Cannon, if you could
Yes.
just get that written up. Number 10, I think there was just an issue with the legal owner who should be named, so we'll work that out.
And before we get to that,
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, but what about the Department of Public Works? I think Sarah might have had a question
I
about that.
did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, okay.
I would like to change the fair operator may retain the services of the town's operation and maintenance department to the fair operator shall retain the services of the operation and maintenance department.
I think that makes good sense, thank you. Okay. Any issues there?
Nope, I don't. We already have a meeting scheduled for second week in July.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so again, we're down, number 10, there's just some issues with the appropriate legal name, and we have to get that straightened out. Mr. Corvo?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, through you, if I could. The name on the Sunday license application is King's Fair LLC, and it's checked off as owner. But according to the records at the registry, the owner of the property is Lancelot Entertainment. And then on the weekday entertainment license, the name is King Richard's Fair. And again, owner is checked off, but again, Lancelot is the owner. So we need to know, because you crossed off LLC.
Well, you had King Richard's Fair LLC, which is not a legal entity.
Yeah.
King Richard's Fair is the event that we are producing. King's Fair LLC produces King Richard's Fair. Lancelot owns the land. So that's
Okay,
where there's
I don't know what
confusion.
you're kinda-
No, I'm just,
but-
you know what, we
I
had
mean,
some
you checked
issues
off-
earlier with all the licensing
Right.
and permit applications from different things, and then DBAs, and so we filled these out like 6 times.
So
And
who's
so we
the
finally
owner?
got it right based on all of the information from the
Oh, I don't
selectman's
think-
office.
You did get it right, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, King's Fair LLC is not the owner of the property. So who is
Yeah,
King's
who's-
Fair LLC?
And who's the owner?
The entity that produces King Richard's Fair is King's Fair LLC. The owner of the property is Lancelot Entertainment. Lancelot Entertainment owns Edaville. Lancelot Entertainment owns King's Fair LLC. But they're independent. For instance, Edaville Operations or Railway Productions will be the one that's going to come before you for permits for the Christmas Festival of Lights.
So, Mr. Corbeau, are you asking who actually owns King Richard's LLC?
Well, I want clarification as to who the legal entity is that is going to be responsible if someone gets hurt at the property.
King's
Yeah.
Fair LLC will be the legal responsibility. That's who has the insurance and who we provide the town with insurance policies for.
So that needs to be corrected in the.
Yeah.
all
Well,
of
and the reason I
case
changed it to
finding.
King Richard's Fair is because it said King Richard's Fair LLC, which wasn't correct. So then
Okay.
King Richard's Fair is the event, so however you want to put it, if you want to put King's Fair LLC, totally fine, or leave it as King Richard's Fair because that's the event.
We need to make sure it's correct so that the
Yeah,
town
we
is
need the
legally
actual
protected. if
owner.
there's
And that's
any
fine.
answer.
And so the reason is a lot of these conditions were never in any of our conditions we've ever had before. So a lot of this was new. So that's
Understood, and
why.
that's why we're working on this, and we'll, but we need to just make it straight. So, Mr. Cannon, you good with what we've got to do on
I have it down
those?
as King's Fair LLC.
All right, and let's double and triple check before
Yes.
we,
Does that satisfy Mr. Corbo's question?
Yes, as long as that's a legal entity,
a legal entity.
then that's fine.
and if, Mr. Cannon, Mr. Corbo, if you two could just consult prior to
Yes.
our next meeting, so
Yes.
we're ready.
And make sure that's a
Make sure
legal
it's correct.
entity.
It is a legal entity because the select board, the select men's office found all of the certificates that Elaine is holding up right now.
No, I mean, is it legally on the deed, right? Because you said Lancelot
business,
Inc. was
legal
on the deed?
business.
Well, yes, it's not the legal entity that owns the property, but as long as you have a legal entity that can be responsible and that has funding to,
Right.
pay these claims.
Properly
then that-
insured and.
Yeah.
and-
And that's how it worked
understand.
before, too. We didn't own the land that we'd been on for 44 years, but King's Fair LLC was the tenant and the one producing King Richard's Fair.
Okay, and I think that's the same issue with number 10, number 11, number 12. Thanks. And number 13.
Correct.
So any issues from anybody on any of those items?
As long as our legal counsel's okay.
Right, and prior to our next meeting, we'll have Mr. Cannon and Mr. Corbo will have consulted and
Yes.
will present it to us in the appropriate manner. So then we get to number 14, and
Wait a minute. Why, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Why does it say it's a foreign limited liability corporation?
is that a question for the,
I don't know who it's for, but that's what's said on the Secretary of the Commonwealth's.
Because, I can explain that, I think, because we've always been a Minnesota corporation, and so we have to have representation here in the state of Massachusetts, and we're called a foreign corporation, because we're not in the state of Massachusetts.
Mr. Corbo, I think that's the way it is, right? If you're not a Massachusetts corporation, you're a foreign corporation. Is
That's correct, and you still have to register to do business in Massachusetts.
Okay, is that,
If Mr. Corbo is okay with it,
okay?
I'm okay with it.
All right, so that was, say, 11, 12, 13, all this. Anybody have any issues on any of those? So then we get to 14. The fair had a suggested change on that. I will tell you, I'm not okay on that. I think the police chief has always been reasonable in all the safety measures he's asked to be implemented down there, so I personally would not support that change.
What is their change? I don't have that in front of me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right there.
And if you would mind reading that, so I
Oh,
can hear it.
do you want me to read
Yeah,
it?
yeah, please read.
It says, it said the police chief in consultation with the town administrator may order that additional safety measures be implemented, but then the words commercially reasonable safety measures was inserted in there.
No.
So
Yeah,
that's
no.
what we're suggesting not to amend.
Sure, and our legal counsel suggested that that should be put in there. So I don't know if
Well, of
Mr.
course.
Corbo would like to talk to,
Well, that's
Kavanaugh.
what your legal counsel would suggest, but we're operating for the town, right? So,
Does it need to be an
Mr.
action?
Corbo,
item?
do you see any issues with the way number 14 was originally written?
No.
Okay. Well, then I would support the way number 14 was originally written, personally. I guess that's just where I'm at. Everyone,
Yep.
we all in agreement there?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Cannon, you have that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then we get to number 15, and there was a small change that the fair had there. I'll read that portion. It starts, "The police chief, in consultation with the town administrator, may summarily suspend or revoke either or both of the licenses for the following operating day based on any failure of the fair operator to comply with the terms of this license. The parking plan," the fair inserted the word "or" before any other conditions. And we had that pose an imminent threat, the fair changed that to such that said failure poses. Mr. Corbo, do you have a comment on that wording at all? Do you have that? Would you like to read it, Sarah?
Yes, I
Oh, we
would.
had one of those.
What number is it here?
It's number
15?
15.
Yeah, that's 16 in the old one.
So there was a suggested change to, I guess, add in the words such that said failure poses an
Yeah.
imminent threat. And so, I mean, it wasn't clear to me, and, you know, I think the issue here is that the license can be suspended for any violation
Yeah.
of the conditions.
I agree. Thank you.
Well, I would go with whatever wording our council suggests
Yeah.
on that. Let me put it that way.
I
And is that a
concur.
recommendation not to amend it? Leave it as was?
Yeah.
I think so. Our
Well,
council's...
I don't think we're taking votes right now, so I just, yeah.
No, he's saying he's recommending
Right,
to
that-
leave it
That's
Yeah.
fine.
as
Yeah.
was before without a amendment.
Okay. And then on 16 and 17, I don't think there were any, I think everyone was good with 16 and 17. So, anybody have any comment on those?
No?
So again, I think we've covered a lot. And I think we probably need some back and forth between the town and you folks before the next meeting. But I do think we need, first of all, I think we need to get this wording straightened out. We need to get the ownership issue to a place where everyone's comfortable, and we need to get the planning board's input, and we need to get, I think, hopefully some final determination on the Rochester lot. And before we move on from this particular item, I want to make sure everybody's heard. So, first of all, do you folks have anything else?
Nope, I don't think so. I think that on a couple of the wordings where we had changed or suggested change, I'll reach out to our council, and Mr. Kavanaugh can discuss with Mr. Corbo.
Yeah, and Mr. Cannon and Mr. Corbo, if we could get all these changes done and get it out to everybody as quickly as possible, so everybody has the chance to review it, I think that's...
Yes.
Yeah, I would appreciate that, because then having one day to do it is a little...
And it's the same here, and I think
course.
everybody needs as much time as possible to review it. Mr. Corbo, do you have anything else?
So, through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have anything on the entertainment license, but I
Okay.
did have a number of issues with the liquor license.
Okay, well,
Would you like to talk
Yes.
about that now?
Yes.
Okay. There's application here for special one-day liquor license, a number of them. And under Chapter 138, Section 14 of the general laws, the town can grant a special one-day liquor license to the manager of an indoor or outdoor event. And if it is a for-profit event, it can only be for beer and wine sales. If it is a not-for-profit event, then it can be for all alcoholic beverages.
I'm a little confused by that, because we filled out the same applications every year for the past 44 years, and we've had it for all alcohol. We've checked it off for all alcohol. It's never been an issue. So I guess why, is this a new bylaw or something?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is the law. This is the first time I have been asked to review this
That's correct.
application. I don't know what's been done in the past, but all I know is that the law, Chapter 138, Section 14 of the Massachusetts General Laws, says that for-profit enterprises can only have wine and malt licenses, and not-for-profit enterprises can have all alcoholic beverages.
Okay, so, and first, if you could repeat, please, the section and the chapter?
Chapter 138, Section 14.
Okay. Okay. Of the Massachusetts
General laws.
general laws. So then, okay, maybe call me ignorant with this, but so how does a restaurant operate? Because it's obviously for profit, and they sell alcohol.
A restaurant has an annual license, and there are different
talking about
categories
special
of
one days?
licenses for restaurants.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, if I...
yeah,
I had a
Ms.
question,
Ewens and then Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, if I could just interject here, too. I think part of the issue is that when we've issued these licenses in the past, not just to you, but to anyone, we were unaware of this law, and we didn't have counsel present, but we happen to have him here today. So we've all learned something.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan?
Could you go for an annual license? What would be the difference of doing an annual license versus these one-day special licenses? Because if you were to apply for the whole
Year.
business of, everything as a annual
I
license.
don't think that's,
Mr. Corbo, could you?
yeah, through
Can
you,
you do
Mr.
that?
Chair. No, it's not, if you have an annual license, you have to be open.
All the time?
Yeah.
And you're not open all the time?
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Correct. Just seasonally for 2 different events.
Is there any kind of a seasonal license, or is it the same as these one-day things?
I know.
There is seasonal license, but I don't know that that applies
Okay.
here. I can look into that. I think that's only for municipalities that have seasonal populations.
Okay. Just trying to figure something out.
Yeah, no, I know, and so it's any malt beverage. So that's not just necessarily beer and wine. There are malt beverages that are made that are different, but we'll look
Malt,
into
yeah.
that too.
Wines and malt beverages.
Okay.
Mr. Carter, do you have anything on that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, can
Yes.
I? So with respect to this application, it would have to be amended to specify only beer and wine. It would have to have the name of a manager
Right.
who's going to be, not just a company, but an actual person who is going to be responsible. So these licenses typically require that there be a bartender that is tips and Safe Surf or Serve Safe certified. So we haven't seen any proof of that. We don't know
May I ask what kind of proof you need? All of our bartenders are tips certified. We do
They
that
need
through our
to
beer
submit
sponsors.
their
then we-
documentation.
Through for this particular, give us a little bit more information. It is something that we do yearly with our bar team. So they all go through tips training.
So they
prior
should be
to
on the
opening of
application,
festival.
correct?
So we would know have to know who the bar team is and show proof that they've completed the training.
Would it be possible to have the manager who we've hired, the national company, actually international company, Sodexo Live, who's been with us for basically all of our years at the fair, they're in charge of all the food and beverage operation. Would it be something that we would put that person's name on the license
Well, they
or
have
on
to
the
be
application?
They have to be certified, correct? According to what you just read.
Mr. Corbo, could you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't really follow that.
I guess I'm confused. We've never put any of our bartenders who are seasonally,
I guess we're right now. So I think you're asking us that we need a single person to put on in terms as a
Bartending
a
company,
manager,
right?
Right, so there needs to be a manager, right, who's responsible overall, right? But then any person who is serving alcoholic beverages needs to be either tips or Serve Safe certified.
Correct. So, and where are those going to? Do you need us to send them to you? How is that compiled? I guess that's our question.
Yeah,
Let
we
us
would
know.
need to be provided, or the board would need to be provided with that information.
So you could send them to the town
Yes,
administrator.
right. I mean, if it's a company that does it, there are, caterers licenses, and if they have a caterer's license, then they would be responsible for doing all of those things.
Okay. We'll figure that out with our food and beverage manager.
Okay. And then, so we would need that. Then, I guess my suggestion through you, Mr. Chair, would be that there be some plan in place to show, what precautions are taken to prevent sale of alcoholic beverages to minors, and that there is liquor liability insurance in place, and that, needs to be clear that any alcoholic beverages that are served have to be purchased from a licensed wholesaler.
Yeah.
And so, my suggestion, Mr. Chair, is that these requirements be specified in the license.
Can you get that to Mr. Cannon so that
Yes.
Mr. Cannon can make sure we have everything in place prior to the next meeting, so we're
Yes.
good to
And then
go?
if I can have enough time to be able to fill out, again, that application and do it the way that it needs to be?
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's our goal, so everybody gets
Yeah.
this early enough that we can
Okay.
get it all done.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Chair, just one final
Yeah,
thing for the
sure.
common victualer's license, just that a condition of that is that there needs to be a food service permit from the Board of Health.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely, we go through all of that.
All right, Mr. Ryan, I think you had something?
Oh, I was going to say, I think we've learned this too, because, like we said, we usually don't have counsel here, so we probably need to create a checklist too for, to our town administrator, so that when people apply, we're just aware of it too.
That'd be
But we're
great,
being
because right now we're
educated.
feeling a little
We're
singled
being-
out.
Well,
So-
sorry, we're being educated too about this tonight, for, so I think we'll have to take an action to have a checklist through our town administrator.
If you could put an agenda item on a future meeting to establish a select board one-day liquor license policy. Okay, with a list of conditions. And if you could work with Mr. Corbo to get everything buttoned down for that policy, then I think that would be something the board should vote on. Okay, anything else, Mr. Corbo?
That's all, Mr. Chair.
All right. Mr. Chief, do you have anything?
No.
Nothing to add? Okay. Mr. Ryan?
I'm all good.
Ms. Ewens?
I'm all set, thank you.
Mr. Carter?
Also, thank you.
Mr. Cannon?
All set, sir. Thank you.
All right, good. So let's all work cooperatively here to try to get all our i's dotted and t's crossed, so on July 1st, we can get everything approved.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, may I just ask one more question? So this new liquor license or special one-day liquor license is going to be a new form that you will send to us that includes the checklist of things that you need? I just want to make sure I understand it so that we're prepared.
Yeah.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we can send you a checklist.
Okay, that would be great. Some of the things too that just as an FYI is our inspection date is Tuesday before we open the fair site. So our food permits, once the Board of Health has gone through everything, we don't get them. So we don't get them before, so we won't have those by July 1st.
Okay, but I think we could condition the permit upon Board of Health approval, couldn't we?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Everyone, Mr. Carter, you good?
All set, thanks.
All right, I think we're good. Thanks very much, folks. Appreciate you coming in.
Okay, thank you.
And again, just let's all work together. If you have any
Yep.
questions at all, please get in touch with Mr. Cannon. Let's get this all
I
buttoned up.
sure will.
Okay?
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. All right, that was a little bit long discussion. Does anyone need a quick 5-minute break before we go on? We good?
Good.
Okay. Moving on to our next, it's a discussion of employee and retiree health care plan options.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I think the only other thing for me on here would be the one-day license for Pours and Bites. Do you?
You know, I'm
Can we maybe
sorry,
skip
yes,
to that?
if you wouldn't mind, ma'am, if we could just take 5 minutes, if we could take the application for a one-day special license, actually, there's 2 items. We have an additional last-minute application for another one-day liquor license.
Oh, okay. I haven't
So
seen that one.
let's do both of them at the same time. So the first is our, where is it on the agenda? It's our 750 item, application for a one-day special liquor license for Pours and Bites LLC for June 28th, 2025, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Carver Sportsman's Club at 127 Main Street.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Oh, well, no, it sounds like all those same things that we just raised apply to this too,
yes,
Yeah,
so-
right?
I think Ms. Hewens has a...
Do I have the
suggestion.
conditions here?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The name of the bartender and...
I have all the conditions here. Mr.
So-
Corbo gave them to us.
Mr. Corbo.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. My understanding is that someone from town administration has confirmed that, no?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
That they do have tip-certified bartenders?
Okay.
Is that right?
So Pours and Sips is the certified pourer. So when we give you these one-day specials for the Sportsman's Club, the applicant, only on their barbecue cookout will you ever see Sportsman's Club as the applicant. The applicant is always the certified pourer.
Okay.
And then attached to that, you'll see their liquor liability insurance and everything that Greg previously mentioned. This applicant has everything there.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion?
Yes, the motion is that I move that the board grant a one-day wine and malt license to Pours and Bites LLC, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant must contract with a caterer, bartender, or bartending service who is insured, and anyone serving alcoholic beverages must be certified by a nationally recognized responsible alcohol training program, i.e. TIPS or Serve Safe Responsible Alcohol Service. Proof of certification must be submitted with the application. Number 2, the license will be subject to all state, local, and federal laws and regulations concerning the purchase, sale, and distribution of alcohol, including but not limited to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 14. And number 3, the license will not be granted unless the applicant demonstrates that sufficient safeguards are in place to prevent the unauthorized sale or delivery of alcoholic beverages to minors under the age of 21.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll make a second for discussion.
All right, discussion?
So we did mention the names of the bartenders, so certified names of bartender, will those need to be provided, and in the name of the manager? So you asked for names of people.
Through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And I would defer to the Assistant Town Administrator, but I believe that the manager there would be Eric Christensen, and that the Pours and Bites LLC is I guess like has a caterer's license, is that right?
It's the certified caterer pourer, and Eric Christensen is the manager of that, not of Carver Sportsman's Club.
Right, so there is a category of license for caterers, and so they don't need to kind of come in every time. Their annual caterer's license covers all of those additional
Okay,
things.
thank you.
All right, so we have...
And they did, by the way, attach a certificate of insurance.
Yes,
Good,
I see
thank you.
that.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Opposed?
we have to take a roll call
Oh,
vote.
I'm sorry, yes, it has to
Dan-
be a roll call vote.
Dan Ryan says aye.
Mark Townsend says aye.
Sarah Hewen says aye.
John Carter says aye.
All right, thank you. It is approved. Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Ryan. So next, we have item unanticipated by the board 48 hours in advance of the meeting. We have another one-day license, special liquor license for the St. John the Baptist Club at 52 Silver Street for June 22nd to June 23rd from 12 p.m. to 11. I'm going to assume that's 11 p.m. It's not filled in. This license is for all alcoholic beverages, but Mr. Corbo, from our previous discussion, we can't issue that license, right? It has to be for wine and malt beverages only?
No,
But
they're a nonprofit.
That's true, they are a nonprofit, okay. Thank you again for the reminder. Okay, so I have no other information on whether they have a catering service or
Right.
anything.
Mr. Chairman, we are not aware that they have a catering service. We can work with them for a name of a manager and see if they're tip certified. We don't have that information in front of us.
Well, we don't have another meeting before the date of their event. Can we issue a license conditionally?
Yeah.
So yes, you can issue a license conditionally.
Okay.
Also, as we have been discussing, right, there's been no formal policy yet of the board. This is a nonprofit, and maybe the town administrator and the chief can work with them. But if you're not comfortable granting this license, one of the things that we'll include in this policy is that, applicants need to come to you sufficiently in advance to
that's-
make sure that these things are worked out.
Yeah.
That's correct. Is there a motion?
I move that the board grant a one-day all liquor license, is that correct? To St. John the Baptist Club, subject to the following conditions. 1, the applicant must contract with a caterer, bartender, or bartending service who is insured, and anyone serving alcoholic beverages must be certified by a nationally recognized responsible alcohol training program, i.e. TIPS or ServSafe Responsible Alcohol Service. Proof of certification must be submitted with the application. Number 2, the license shall be subject to all state, local, and federal laws and regulations concerning the purchase, sale, and distribution of alcohol, including but not limited to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 14. Number 3, the license will not be granted unless the applicant demonstrates that sufficient safeguards are in place to prevent the unauthorized sale or delivery of alcoholic beverages to minors under the age of 21.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Mr.
Dan Ryan says aye.
Mark Townsend says aye.
Sarah Hewen says aye.
Mr. Carter?
John Carter says aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Corbo. We appreciate your help as always.
Happy to help.
All right. Now, we're going to move on to our 7 p.m. Agenda item. We're just a little bit behind on employee and retiree health care plan options. We have Susan Shalui, Thank you for coming in this evening.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad I'm not before you to get a liquor license. I'm actually here to talk about the town's health insurance for your employees and retirees. Just to talk a little bit about the state of healthcare in Massachusetts. Right now, we're experiencing sort of the perfect storm of all these different factors coming together, which is resulting in some significant increases in healthcare costs. It's not just the town of Carver, it's not just Gateway Health Group that you participate in, it's literally across the country and particularly significant in Massachusetts. What's happening, lots of different factors. There's a consolidation in the market, so there aren't that many carriers left, especially ones who want to do business with municipalities. A lot of the commercial carriers don't want to provide programs for municipalities because you tend to be an older population, because you cover everybody continually, even after employment. The carriers who still are involved in Massachusetts with the municipalities, they're having a more difficult time negotiating contracts with the providers for so many different reasons. Some of those reasons are consolidation of providers, right? So there's more buying power, increased costs of technology, staffing, traveling nurses, reductions in Medicare and Medicaid payments so that the providers have to make up on the commercial side, an aging population, increased demand for services, chronic diseases, and then prescription drugs are huge with the specialty medications.
I'm sorry,
that
what
hit
was the last
market.
thing you said? I beg your pardon.
I'm sorry?
What was the last item you listed?
Prescription drugs.
Prescription drugs, particularly specialty medications, cancers, rheumatoid arthritis. And the big topic, which I spend about 50% of my time right now talking about, are the GLP-1 drugs, which are the diabetes drugs that are now being used for weight loss. So all of these factors are contributing to rising costs. Currently, the town of Carver participates in the Gateway Health Group, which is a consortium of 3 entities. It used to be larger, but over the last several years, several of those towns have pulled out of the group, leaving a very small group. The decision has pretty much been made that Gateway Health Group will dissolve as of July of 2026. So through Glenn, we are continuing to meet with your employees and retirees through the Insurance Advisory Committee to keep them up to date as to what's happening with Gateway Health Group. And we will start talking about the options of what we will be looking at for coverage for the town employees and retirees beginning for fiscal '27. We haven't started that exercise yet because we still have to get more recent claims data. And then at that point, we will be going to different groups. I would tell you that the town of Carver is too small to just go directly to carriers and be on your own. It's just too risky. But there are other joint purchase groups out there that we will be approaching, such as Mayflower Municipal Health Group, Southeast Mass Health Group, Maya, which is the insurance arm of the Mass Municipal Association. They have a very large health trust. And then we can also look at the GIC, which is the Group Insurance Commission, the state health plan, and municipalities can join that. They all have sort of a unique personality, But we will be looking at all options for the town, and we'll continue to communicate that through the Insurance Advisory Committee. Anything else I should touch on, Glenn?
No, I think that's it for now.
Do you have any questions?
Ms. Hewens?
I'm sorry, I don't know where I was, but I didn't know what group you are representing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Sue Shalou from Cook and Company.
And
I'm
what-
an independent consultant. We work exclusively with mass municipalities, advising them on their health insurance.
Great, thank you.
So I'm independent.
Thank you, that's
Yeah,
good to know.
I should have started with that. Thank you.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, we pay Sue a direct fee as opposed to her getting a percentage to whichever group we move to. We wanted to do that to get an unbiased opinion.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah, we didn't want to bring in a salesperson who might be directing us to the best option and,
But we don't know.
You don't know. So again, independent contractor, she gets a flat rate, she's considerably helpful to me as I'm learning all this information, bringing a lot of this on. You know, I've never gotten out of the health group before. It doesn't happen too often, but Gateway Health Group has slowly dwindled away now to really there's only 3 members of it. And Carver, I believe, is 52% of the group, so we're making up the majority of it.
If you're more than 50% of a group, you're not a group.
You know, the purpose of the group is to help each other.
Yeah.
You know, we're helping them, and I'm not really sure how much they're really helping us.
Do you have a time period in mind where you think we get to a point where we can make a decision on where we're going to go?
Yeah,
We've been working on this, Mr. Chairman, diligently. It's been difficult to get information back, but I'll let Sue.
Yeah, so what's interesting is the bylaws or the joint purchase agreement for Gateway states that you have to let them know by December 1st or December 31st if you're going to leave the group. But it appears that the group is voting to disband. So we don't think, and this was discussed at the last meeting, we don't think that date is going to necessarily come into play. Some of these other groups also have dates by which you have to let them know that you would be coming into the group. So this fall is going to be a real critical time to do evaluations.
If for some reason we didn't let the group know that we planned on leaving, even if the group was disbanding, could we possibly owe some type of compensation to the other towns because we didn't give them notice that we were leaving?
If the group's just, I don't know, we have to check a bylaw on that, but as far as I know, if the group is disbanding, we're all just going our separate ways. I will say one thing, Mr. Chairman, I find it very frustrating because we can't even get quotes right now from these other entities. They keep pushing us back here for this most recent claims data they're looking for. And apparently it's going to come more this fall, but I've been asking them for quotes for probably a year now, and Sue's been trying to help me, but they keep pushing us off.
If there's only, if there's only 3 members of the group, and right now the group bylaws say, you know, we have to let them know by a certain time, wouldn't it be in everyone's best interest to have the group change the bylaw? So
Yes.
that you don't have to make that?
And they did discuss that
Okay.
at the last meeting, so I think that will be done.
Okay, thank
And
you.
again, because Carver is the biggest of the 3 entities, if Carver pulls out, the group doesn't have an option, really, but to disband. But I think it's going to be a consensus to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Hewens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to point out that I'm not sure anyone here was around when we were originally in the Mayflower Group. This is many, many years ago. And we left them because it was too expensive. And our former town administrator and our school financial officer, Pat Mohar, formed this Gateway Group to control the prices. And so I have a concern. I don't know what Mayflower's price is, obviously, because they won't tell us. It says that's a problem. But I just wanted people to know that was the reason we originally left Mayflower. And I think it had to do with being in the Boston Standard Metropolitan Statistical Area, which is way different from where we are.
Yeah. So Mayflower is sort of like in the Plymouth area, but they are one of the groups that requires a buy-in because they have a trust fund reserve that they've been able to tap into to keep their rates lower. So when a new group comes in, you don't get the advantage of that subsidy. So there is a buy-in cost.
What does that mean? There's a buy-in cost?
So for example, let's say that the rates that they set for the group are subsidized by their reserves by 8%. Carver's rates going in, you would not get that lower rate. So they would come back to us when they evaluate your claims, and they would say, this is the buy-in cost. So you have to pay more than what our standard rates are for a certain period of time. So I do have a client who was in Mayflower, left Mayflower, and they're going back to them this July. And they're going to be paying higher rates for 4 years, at which point they then will get the standard rate.
Okay.
It's part of the evaluation.
Okay.
Mr. Carter, did you have something?
No, we looked at the Mayflower group, I want to say about 8 or 9 years ago, and faced the same issue, that there was, I think at that particular point in time, it was estimated to have a buy-in of over $200,000. And at that particular point in time, the gateway increases were going up like double digits, and Mayflower was able to keep it probably around, I think I remember like 8 or 9%, maybe because of the trust fund. But I know there were some other issues, I can't remember what it was, that made us decide to not go into the Mayflower group. But it's definitely an option I think we should look at.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
I had two questions. So, and we've touched upon one of them. What's going to be the cost of us, when Gateway Group dissolves, so to say, and we have to go? We estimated what there might be some liability when they dissolve, and so can we get some kind of a indication or estimate of what the cost is going to be for us to switch?
I'll let Sue handle
That's
this.
one. That was my
Thanks,
first
Glenn.
question.
Yeah, that's the question of the day.
Okay.
So there are no reserves within Gateway right now. They are hoping to build up reserves over the course of fiscal '26, so
Okay.
that as of June 30 of '26, when the group disbands, in a perfect world, there would be enough reserves to pay for the incurred but not reported run-out claims, which is what you have to pay, because not all claims that have been incurred up to that point have been paid yet. I can't venture a guess
Oh, boy.
at this point.
But that is a
If
number
I
that we
could,
need to continue.
if I could, Mr. Chair, I think we got to be realistic. We're going to be looking at some tailings that we got to pay once we leave the gateway, and a buy-in probably with whoever we go.
Well,
Yeah.
and I was going to ask that question as well. Since we're leaving Gateway, are there any tailings or buyouts that we're going to have to pay?
Yes. If the reserves are not there to cover what's called incurred but not reported claims, which is really the run out, you would have to come up with funding for that. Out of the groups that I mentioned, Mayflower at this point is the only one that requires a buy-in. So Mayflower may not be, when we look at the finances, they may not be an option, but I think it's clear that Gateway, as of July of '26, is not going to be an
And
option.
when will we know if there's tailings that we have to pay?
Maybe not until
Till the end.
closer to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so it could be
I
after,
mean,
okay.
It could be. I mean, we see on a monthly basis if the rates that are generated and the revenue collected is generating a surplus, or if it's not. So we could get to December
Yeah.
and know that you're not going to have a
And are those
surplus.
tailings divided by the proportion of the group that you are?
It should be, yes.
So even if 100% of the claims that we're paying on are from another town, we'd still have to pay that 52% of those claims?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Ryan?
And my second question is, you did state that we could join the state health plan. It sounds like that is an option for us. So I guess, have we started looking into that? What is the pros and cons of doing that? And is there a buy-in fee to that? Or so where are we on that path of
Yeah.
at least identifying that as a real option?
That's probably the first analysis that I will do because we now know what the GIC rates are for fiscal '26, and we know what your rates are. So I will be doing an analysis to show the difference in costs. The tricky part with the GIC is that you do have to notify them by December 1st that you're going to join next July. So you are making a decision based on what you know for the current fiscal year. You don't know the benefits, the rates, anything by the time you have to make a decision. The other can be tricky part is that the GIC offers 8 different plans. So every employee would have the choice of 8 plans or 4 plans for your Medicare retirees. We don't know what the enrollments would be. I typically, as your consultant, I typically give a very conservative migration estimate. And then I'll also give a less conservative one to do a comparison to your current costs. So that will be done in the near future.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Carter, you have anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Anybody else? Mr. Ryan?
No,
Ms.
thank you. Thank you
Mr.
very
Cannon,
much.
do you have anything you want to add?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much
coming
for
in
coming in.
and-
We really appreciate it. Sorry you had to wait so long.
Thank you.
All right. Next is our discussion of Select Board and Town Administrator goals for fiscal year 2026. We had a lot of goals submitted, and I guess we could do this a couple of different ways. First of all, we don't have a full board tonight, but I believe we will have a full board on July 1st.
So table
So I think there's a couple of different things we could do. Last year, the board did not rank their goals. I think they just submitted them all as goals. Personally, for myself, I think we should rank the top, say, 5 goals, so everybody knows clearly what's going on, but other people may feel differently. But I thought perhaps we could go through and sort of discuss what we all submitted tonight, but maybe leave that vote on ranking them, if that's what the board wanted to do, until the 1st, when Mr. Hoffman's here and we have a full board. Maybe that would be fairer to everybody. Or we could do it tonight, whatever the board wants to do. But why don't we start with the select board goals that we all submitted, and I have them in the order that they were sent out, so we'll go in that order. So just for myself, I tried to be very brief. I had one goal for the select board, and that's to get the North Carver Water District where it has to be, to work with the TA, the North Carver Water District, whoever it is we have to work with to get that straightened out and make sure everybody up there has good, clean water. And that was my goal. And that's probably, in all honesty, it's probably sort of a hybrid goal. I think there's probably some actions that the select board has to take. There's probably also some actions that the town administrator has to take but
It's
I
also,
think
if I may, it's also something that has to happen anyway,
it absolutely has to happen.
whether we want it to or not.
Which was
Yeah.
that's why I made it my one goal,
Yeah.
because it has to happen, no matter what happens at the State House, no matter what happens anywhere.
No, but I mean legally as well.
Right,
I mean,
right,
yeah.
it has to happen.
Yeah.
So that was
You can
my,
pre-plan, or you can plan, after the fact, and I'd much rather pre-plan.
Oh, yeah.
yep, and I think that's something we have to do. We cannot wait until we get a call from the State House one day saying, hey, guess what? We've approved your home rule petition, and now what? We have to be ready to go. So that was my goal. And Mr. Ryan, your goals were next on my list, and you had
Do you want me
a
to
long
go
number
through
of
them?
goals, so
Okay.
maybe you could sort of prioritize a couple of those?
Sure. So what I did, and it was a different approach, is I took our goals from last year and I deleted anything that seemed like it was either complete or not. And so whatever was left from our goals from last year, I just summarized. And they really come into a few things. Is we've already started on the path of, looking at dedicated funds for future planning, which I know we still need to do that. We have the monies coming into the town through the pilots and different things like that. I think it's still very important financially that we remain in good shape, and that we're taking and looking at money and finalizing our policies. And I think we are going to do that anyhow, because there's a series of meetings that are going to occur, and we're going to continue to look at that. So I think as a goal is, participating in that policy and those updates. That's part of what that was. The second two we can put together. We've got the old police and fire station here that just seem to never be looked at as a, they just keep sitting there, and they've been there for a long time. So I think we still should stay on top of, utilizing that space. I think it's important we do something there, because, or at least keep pushing something forward with that. That was part of it.
And if I could just, Mr. Cannon, we do have feasibility studies going on right now,
We
right?
do,
Yeah.
we do. And we should have the consultants in here July 15th, we're scheduled for.
Okay, well, remember, right now, we may not have a meeting on July 15th. Remember, we moved that meeting to July 7th or something. I forget exactly
It
what.
would be August 5th then.
Okay, well, we'll have them in at a future meeting. We'll find a date for them, but,
So as a board, I think we just need to stay on top of that, and maybe the goal's simple enough if we're going to continue to make progress on it. It was just doing that. And then I guess continuing on the budget strategy fits into that the group that's going to continue to work on that.
Okay.
The other two, I guess I could I think they're in lower priority as far as, they're important. We want to continue to make sure that the aquifer is protected and things like that. And I don't know if we even did anything on that this year a lot,
Well,
but I'd like to.
Yeah, if I may, I wanted to interject here that the Plymouth Carver Aquifer Advisory Committee, which was made up of 7 towns and delegates from the 7 towns in the aquifer region and 7 alternates, they worked on this exact issue for 10 years, between 2004 and 2014. I didn't actually mention it in my plan. I'm not sure why, but I should have. I'd like to see that committee started up again.
Okay.
We started originally here in Carver, and then the other select boards nominated their delegate members. And there are plans out there, because once that committee took off, the state then actually funded us they provided us with a person kind of in charge of the whole shebang. And they came up, they worked with us and with SERPED to come up with an aquifer protection plan, and also a regional aquifer protection plan.
So maybe we modify this goal to get that started.
Right,
Get that
and then
kicked
there
off
was also
again.
a regional open
Good.
space protection plan, which kind of
Okay.
goes with that.
All right.
And those are out there. Those are they're online at SERPED. But it would be nice to go back to those and just, see where we are. Have we
I
done
think
these
so.
things,
Yes.
So that's a good.
Okay,
good one.
so that's my list, I guess.
and I guess just for number 6,
Yeah.
I know we talked last year about having that assessors meeting be multiple meetings, and I know I mentioned that to Mr. Cannon. I think we both brought it up last year, and
Yeah.
I think I got an email from Ms. Weston today that's in the plan. So we will be having multiple
And was that
meetings there.
because they've read the goal? No.
That's exactly right. We saw the goal. We
saw
said,
the goal.
let's
We
get
said,
on
wait a
that
minute,
right
let's
now.
do that.
So
Okay.
we move
Perfect.
fast. So, yeah, so I know that is,
All right.
is something that's going to happen. So, so Dan, if you had to identify like 1 or 2 of those to be your top priorities, what would they?
I could give you that next time if you want, or I could send that in. I'll take a look. I mean, they're all important
Yeah,
to
why
do.
don't you
but-
send it in just so we can have,
Okay.
we could sort of try to cut them down just a little.
And if I could put in my 2 cents, I would encourage you to include the aquifer protection as a high priority,
yeah,
because like I said,
it is.
that work has already been done, but all these plans are kind of living things, and they should be modified as we go along, depending on, that was 2014, that was, a long time ago.
Do you remember what other towns were part of that?
Oh, yes, Bourne, Carver, Kingston, Plimpton, Plymouth, Wareham.
Well, just maybe you could get those.
And Middleborough.
What might be good is if the town administrator could communicate with those other towns, maybe,
Yeah.
it doesn't do us much good to put it together here if none of those other towns are on board.
Are
So let's-
interested. Yeah. Well, we could still do it.
We could.
We
but-
could do it just for Carver.
Yeah.
Because they outlined various proposals for the whole region, so that includes each town individually. And Middleborough was on there as well. Just a small part of it's in the aquifer, but that counts.
All right, so I'm just going down my list here. Ms. Hewins, you are next.
So I have 2 here, and the second one, I think, should just be a given. I just wanted it out there. The first one says, support and endorse an updated housing production plan. an updated master plan, an updated open space and recreation plan. All of these plans are actually out of date now. And the open space and recreation plan, we've been in the process of updating it for almost 5 years. And that needs to be done. And the reason is because if something comes to us in any of these different areas that we need to act on, or we need to acquire property to implement some of these plans, we won't have access to state grant money if we don't have updated plans. And we can talk with Mr. Bott about deadlines for that and so on, but we need to really stay on top of those. You just never know. And one perfect example is the coal property. We had an updated plan. We were able to get 2 $500,000 grants from the state, which I wrote. But that's because we had those plans updated. So just a little fair warning there. And the other one is to respect our town employees by allowing them to do their work. Very simple. We don't really want to meddle in the day-to-day running of things. And I don't know if this is applicable, but in the past, I think the board has needed to know this. Perhaps not so much anymore.
But I don't think those are issues that I've heard of, if there's any issues along
But
those lines.
it's good to have it out there. I'm willing to take it off the list, but I just want everyone to be aware that I feel that way.
Yep, okay. Mr. Hoffman's not here with us this evening. I'll read his 3 goals that he had. He had confirmed that TA and Finance Director are on schedule with their agreed budget timeline. Keep updated on possible uses for the old fire station and the old police station. I think that sort of jives with something you had
Both of them.
early, yeah. And keep updated on the North Carver Route 44 projects, which certainly is important. So anyway, those were Mr. Hoffman's.
Yeah, and on number 3, I would say the most important component of that is the North Carver Water District. So
Yeah.
they go hand in hand. I mean, you really, I talk to them about it constantly.
It is, and as I turn the microphone over to Mr. Carter, I see another familiar item there. So, Mr. Carter, I'll let you talk about I'm sorry, Ms. Hewens? do you-
I just wanted to add that, again, the North Carver Water District, we wouldn't have that if it weren't for the coal property. So a lot of people don't understand, I'm sure you all do, but a lot of people don't understand that to acquire the coal property, we needed a lot of money. And because we acquired it, it's not only a conservation property, but that's where our North Carver Water District has its well. So that's a very important point.
Mr. Carter?
So, yeah, so just, I mean, we seem to have, I'm looking at all 3 select board requests, and we seem to have some standardized groupings here, where we've got the North Carver Water District on 4 of the 5 objectives, and we've got a capital plan, coming up with a plan to do something with the old fire station, rec building, council on aging buildings. So that's on 3 of the 5. So it just seems like, we seem to be somewhat on the same page as some of the key things we need to get going on soon. I would just talk a little bit about mine from the standpoint of this capital debt stabilization, which I talked about last year during the whole select board policy issues, is to try to be able to find a debt instrument separate from the reoccurring debt that we keep in our budgets. These are for the long-term projects, the big items that we really can't do with the existing funds coming in. So we left that, I'm not sure if it was 6D or 6E, we really didn't finalize that because that kind of defines the personal property allocation to the debt funding. And I know we're right now got that, large pilot program that's out, so that hasn't been, that policy really hasn't been confirmed yet, and I think we just need to decide what we're going to do, whether we have a significant pilot agreement or not. So I think that's very important that we kind of nail that policy down.
All right, and and Mr. Cannon, that financial policies, we have that one unresolved financial policy. I want to say it was 3F, but it was something F.
Yes.
And I think we should let's finalize some wording there and get it on a future agenda and get that done so we can complete those policies.
Correct. And to Mr. Carter and to the board, so we are working to solidify that 3F language. I don't think we ever got it right last year, so the board didn't vote on it. So we brought that back in-house, kind of clean up that language. And then we are going to propose a 3G, just in case the battery storage facility does not become a pilot. It was going to be a pilot. It was on one of the warrants, right? It was an article. They pulled it off. They're back at the table now. But just in case it falls through again, we want to be ready to address that funding, that's all.
Could you put that on our next agenda, just whether it's yourself or Mr. Roach or whoever? I think the board just needs a quick update on where that pilot agreement is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And whoever can give it to us, but I think we need a quick update on where that pilot agreement is.
Okay.
Right now.
Yeah, that's very concerning if they don't want a pilot agreement.
It's very concerning, and
Because the equipment,
it's a lot of money. And
it goes down in value over
Yep.
the years unless you have a pilot.
Yeah, but I think, again, it's not on the agenda, but I think the issue was we couldn't agree.
Yeah.
Right, we couldn't agree on values, which is why it didn't get done, but anyway, I think we need an update on that.
Yeah.
So before we move on, what is the preference of the board? Do we want to vote these tonight, or do we want to wait till Monday wait till the first when we have a full board?
Well, I think as Mr. Carter said, and I don't know if it makes sense to do this, there's a lot of similarity. It might have made sense to maybe group some of these under the topics, and it seems like for some cases, 4 out of 5 people had the same goal, or 3 out of 5 had the same goal.
And that tends to happen.
It may make sense to kind of group these, and the wording is, the intent, it seems to be the same. Some of the wording is different, but it might be just create a header, that, town buildings or something like that, and just say, let's create and flow them like that, and then we could prioritize them if you want.
I agree with that, but I guess the question is, do we want to do that tonight, or do we want to wait till the first when we have a full board?
I guess we could, maybe if, yeah.
That was my thought.
But having said that, though, I would like to put in my 2 cents that those separate ones that don't fall under the same categories remain in here.
Yes.
Because they are important, even if they're only important to one person.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think we all have our priorities. We all have our individual priorities, which we speak to the town administrator about on a regular basis and advocate for.
No, but these are select board priorities.
Right, but I think then we come to select board priorities, which are the goals of the board as a whole. And I think it's important to us to probably prioritize 3 or 4 things and let everybody know those are our goals. And it's for us and for, but I guess tonight, we're all good with leaving them till July
Yes,
1st?
I'm good with
Yes.
that myself, but I don't see why it has to be limited to 4 or 5. I think once we consolidate some of these, it will be 4 or 5.
Yeah, I just think when you rank them, if you're going to vote to rank them,
Why would you do that? We've never done that before.
I think we have done that before.
No. No, we didn't.
No.
My memory.
I thought we had. We didn't last year, but I personally think we should rank them. But
Why? What's the reason?
My 2 cents up for ranking.
Why do you think we should rank them?
I think it gives everybody guidance on what the priorities are of the board and for the town administrator. That's all. I think,
Well, why do you think it should be limited to 3?
I'm just throwing a number out. It could be 4, it could be 6, it could be whatever. Just, again, it has to be some kind of number.
Yeah, I see the benefit of the ranking being that there's only so much time, and we can't effectively do 6 goals. We probably would not be able to do enough work on it. So if we all agree on the top, maybe we can join together and get the top 2 or 3, make some real, progress on them, versus, because if you have 6 priorities or 7 goals, you're not going to make a lot of progress on them
Well,
unless
if I
you
may,
boil them
I
down.
want to interject that some of them, a lot of them actually don't directly involve us. It's just something that I think we should keep in mind as
Okay.
goals. So, for example, the one on the open space plan and the housing plan, we don't really have anything to do with that, except saying, yes, they're very nice, and send them off, and we sign off on them. But those should definitely be something that we remember to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? We don't directly have an input on those, so those should probably be there, but they're not something that's going to take a lot of time, or any time, for us to
No, but I
actually
think
do.
the other thing, we may not have direct input on them, but it's something that we can remind the town administrator of, that, hey, this is something we're looking to accomplish, and, perhaps that's not a select board goal, perhaps that becomes a town administrator goal.
Well, it should be, but it should be a select board goal too,
Yeah.
because I want the select board to understand that they have to approve these things. They have to be sure they get done.
Sure. And again, I think that's one of the reasons that it's a good idea to sort of prioritize some of these things, just to,
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Ryan, you know, there is only so much time in the day, there's only so many projects you can, if it is a goal of the board though, you know, certainly while we go for grants, there are many grants that you can apply for. You can be writing grants all day long. You know, so you really do need to prioritize what you're going after. So again, if it's a goal of the board, it does help staff, you know, to help us direct our efforts. You know, and even this, you know, 3 plans, if you will, being out of date, that's a lot. Usually,
Yeah.
you know, a plan a year is work, right? You know, usually it takes the entire year sometimes to a plan that, you know,
And
there's
that's-
outreach and committees, you know, there's all kinds of work.
And that's not the fault of any current staff anywhere, no, in this whole building. That's the fault of previous administration. so.
And sometimes they just fall behind, they do. Well, because there are a lot of work to update, that's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
And they fall behind.
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Any more discussion on select board goals? All right. Then we'll move on to the town administrator goals. And again, I'll just go in the order that they were printed here. So mine, and I think I've discussed it at select boards before, to develop a comprehensive timetable for review and approval of town meeting articles, to include a date for articles coming from other boards. I think the timetable should include proofreading of articles and review by town council. And that really just came from last year's ramp up to town meeting. I think we had a lot of issues in here where we had articles come in, they weren't written appropriately, they hadn't been proofreaded, we were sending them back to be rewritten and come back to us. Then we had issues with articles that came to us, but they hadn't been reviewed by town council. And by the time an article gets to us, it should be ready to be voted on. It should be in proper form. We shouldn't have to worry about or question whether it's in legal form, because council would have reviewed it. So that should all be done. But in order to do that, we need to get the articles to Mr. Cannon and Ms. Weston early enough that they have time to have somebody proofread the articles, that they have time to have Mr. Corbo or whoever the appropriate person is review them. And that requires a timetable. And I think you've already started on that.
I have. Again, you mentioned it before, and you know, it was evident last year. I think we need to set deadlines and stick to the deadlines. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and that's not, it's hard to prepare for town meeting when the article's coming back 3 or 4 times.
I
So-
think, to add, I think what happens, though, we only have town meeting once a year, so that's why there's a scramble. I can remember before our, and it's not right, but I remember before our meetings with changes being made 5 minutes before the board met, you know, to fix a bunch of things that had to be corrected. But hopefully we'll be in better shape. But I think it's a great goal. I think we need to continue to get better at, you know, not having to spend so much time in looking for mistakes and things like that. If they can all be proofread and vetted before, it'll certainly
But I think it
be
helps
much better.
everybody too, because if everybody's not under the gun to get something done so quickly, then it gives you more time to get those articles proofread. It gives council time to review them. If somebody comes back and says, wait a minute, this sentence is, you can't do that, then it gives somebody time to rewrite it a little bit. So it helps everybody to get a properly written article. So anyway, that's my goal.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so I think I similarly did what I did on the other approach. I took the goals from last year and got rid of anything like ARPA that was already done and just kind of worked around that. I mean, and I think this is where, I did put the North Carver Water District here because we knew we needed to do a transition plan, but it's everybody's role. I think it is a board role, goal and town administrator goal to get that transition plan done and keep doing that or put a plan in place so that it goes smoothly. And then the first one I had just had to do with, I know throughout the year, people are always thinking of things, action items that have to be done, and we don't seem to have a way of managing that well to say, who owns it, what's the due date, and what's the progress being made on it. So I think if maybe going into this year, we can do better of collecting those up and having status on them and things like that. That was important to me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan, I don't understand what that means, department action items
So there's
with
things-
owner, due dates and progress. What does that mean?
So sometimes there's During the year, there'll be an item that comes up. I know, like, we meet one-on-one with the town administrator, and so, sometimes on those one-on-one meetings, something gets created as an item. So that's the purpose of us getting, when we meet, you all meet one-on-one with the town administrator. So you'll identify from time to time, oh, this needs to be done, or that needs to be done.
But the town
we're not-
administrator already does that.
No, it's not, we're not recording it. That was the thing, is we're not
We don't
coming
know
up with
what
a
he's
formal.
doing. These are town administrator goals?
No, these are our goals.
No,
No,
this
these are town
is goal for the
administrator
town
No,
administrator.
I'm sorry, this is when we meet with the town administrator and ask for an action item. So there's occasions when we'll get together with the town administrator, and maybe John can jump in too. So we'll meet with the town administrator and say, oh, this needs to happen. So sometimes we're not sure what happens to it after that. It's like, I'd like to see a formal list kept, knowing that it's being taken care of and it doesn't fall through the cracks. Because like I think
Yeah, if I could just chime in on that, Dan, and that was something we looked at last year, with just having 2 or 3 items that select board members would, in their private discussions with the town administrator, something they were concerned about, something that they thought needed to be reviewed and looked at, and then, so it would just, stay on this list until it either gets resolved or doesn't get resolved. But not to make it something where here's, 50 items. It's just, what are your top 2 or 3 items that you kind of want to keep track of?
But isn't that something we personally should do? If we talk to the town administrator, he's going to write down what we said.
Yes.
What are we doing here? I don't understand.
So then
Are we
what
telling-
happens is I meet the next week, and I guess I could formally keep track of it, but then if I get together with the town administrator the next week, it's like we're kind of going through the list, saying, okay, we met last week, what's the status of these things?
But don't you
know?
just do that automatically at a meeting?
No, it wasn't happening.
Why don't you do it?
It just wasn't happening.
What wasn't happening?
Sometimes we were just writing them on a piece of paper and then forgetting about them,
Oh.
and then 2 weeks later, it was like, oh, we forgot about that, so it was like trying to get a formal way of capturing things so that we could.
I think that's kind of micromanaging the town administrator.
Well, I will just say that in my meetings with the town administrator, I keep a list, but he kept a list too. And
Yeah.
you would normally resolve those issues. I mean,
Yeah.
or we'd get a phone call,
Okay.
or we'd talk about it at the next meeting, but everyone's different, and everyone has different, I understand that, but
Yeah. All right. Well, I just
anyway.
threw it out. It
Okay.
was I was
Everybody
brainstorming.
has their,
I was brainstorming, so I threw it out there,
Yeah.
and, okay. The newsletter's already happening, I guess. I just really said, keep it going. I don't know if we could remove that, but I think the most recent one just came out, and I like that it keeps going, so
Yeah.
the question is whether it stays as a goal or doesn't stay as a goal, because if we remove it, does that remove the newsletter, or do we leave it and say,
Well, I
keep doing it?
think the goal originally was to start a newsletter, and now he's doing that, so we don't need to tell him to keep doing it.
Okay.
great job,
In my
Mr. Cannon,
opinion,
by the
yeah.
way.
I
Great
mean-
job.
I enjoy it myself. I enjoy
Okay.
myself.
And then I think we talked about the budget thing. That's still part of the policies. Again, we've brought this as the same theme of making sure that we get that. I think that's part of the articles and getting everything set and all that stuff. That's repeat. And we just talked about the health plan transition, so I added that because I know we have to do that. That has to be done somehow.
So if I may go back to the work with the finance director,
Yeah.
isn't that part of our financial policies, so that she would be doing that automatically?
It is,
She would
but
be
have we
completing the
finished all
budget
that? Is that
with
all?
a target date of
Yeah.
October 2025?
I can tell you, we don't have a target date of October 25, but I do have a fiscal budget, just like I put together a warrant budget. I put together one last year too. It wanted to be a little bit more fluid, so hopefully I'll be able to refine that and make it a little better. But it's not in the financial policies though.
Okay.
So we just kind of do it on our own.
So-
And again, it's kind of like Mr. Ryan was saying, it's almost like a checklist, right? And if you look at it, at one point it gets week by week.
Yeah.
And you really got to kind of stay on top of it, because a lot of things come across my desk
Right.
on any given day, any given week, and
But that's my point. I don't think this needs to be a goal, because you do that as part of your job, correct? I mean,
correct. I
Okay.
mean, this is one I think you need, but I think you need it.
You think
Well,
it needs to stay?
So
Okay.
everybody knows, one thing I have asked Mr. Cannon to do this year is to have 2 or 3 meetings during the course of the year, whenever he sees appropriate, but spread out, to give us sort of a state of the budget update where the finance director can come in and
Right.
together with Mr. Cannon, they can go through the budget and tell us where we are and sort of
I
make
believe
sure
the
we're on
schedule
track.
is scheduled first one for October. If
Okay.
I remember correctly, in December, and then maybe a January, February.
Yeah, whatever,
Can't
you know,
remember, but-
two or three, but I have asked him to put those together to sort of help keep us on track. So, anyway, please.
Okay. So yeah, the health plan transition plan, we know we need to get that done. And then the other is, this is just again from last year, so making sure that our board meetings, you know, we have the correct people invited, the correct documentation. I think we talk about it almost every week when we go to plan an agenda item, but we want to make sure that, you know, the board has everything they need to make decisions. You know, we went through this tonight with, you know, having to postpone yet another meeting of things. So it's continuing to focus on, do we have everything ready to go? And does the board have all the information they need so we can get that thing done that night and not have to postpone it?
What did we have to postpone?
The license tonight.
But that wasn't the town administrator's problem. That was, it's not a problem. It's because the planning board hasn't issued their decision yet.
So does that mean we should have met tonight or not? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah,
If
we got
didn't
a
have
lot
that-
done
If we
tonight.
could not make a decision because the planning board didn't meet yet.
That's fine, but we got a lot done tonight. It was,
But that's the whole point. We had it on there to make a vote on the license, and it wasn't just a general discussion, it was to vote on the license.
well, we had a great general discussion. I don't
Yeah, I'm not
see a problem
saying,
with that.
I'm not saying we didn't have a good discussion. I'm basically saying the goal of
I'm
this
suggesting, Dan, that
is-
Mr. Ryan, that this is
Yeah.
a town administrator goal. He could not have foreseen the planning board situation. This was not something, I mean, I think it was scheduled, it was a thorough meeting, and we determined that it needed to be
Right.
postponed.
But the intent of this goal is just to make sure, again, that at our agenda items, we have all the information we need to make decisions in general.
And I think if I'm reading it, understanding it correctly, I mean, tonight, I think what happened with those licenses was almost unavoidable tonight because things came
Yeah, I
up
think
that.
so, too.
And that's going to happen sometimes. But for the most part, I think Mr. Ryan is right, and that's sort of one of the duties of the town administrator, right? When we have these meetings,
Yeah,
but we're not
but
in town
it's kind of
hall.
insulting to have it as a goal. It's already something he knows to do.
It was a goal last year. I'm not removing, I mean, it was a goal
I
last
was
year.
insulted by it last year, too.
Okay, all right.
Okay, again, maybe this is one of the reasons that we prioritize these things,
Yeah.
to see where the board's at.
Okay. And then I don't know that we finished the succession plan for the department heads, is that?
We have not.
So I left it there because it's still an important thing to do, to have cross-training and have the succession plans. So I left it on there. It was a goal from last year that I didn't take off. I kept it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hewens.
Thank you. I think my first two can actually be taken off here. The first one is the, get the North Carver Water District dissolution petition to the legislature, passed by the legislature, and they've already done that, correct?
No, they're moving towards that, but they have
Okay.
not passed it yet.
Okay. And that's not something you have really
Under
any
control, right?
You can call them up and tell them, hurry up, but that's
Correct.
about it. So we can take that off there. And support and endorse the updated plans that I mentioned earlier. That's just kind of a reminder. We want to just keep that in the forefront, but that does not necessarily need to be on the final list. I would like to make the conservation agent and veterans agent positions fully full-time, because believe it or not, of the two positions, this is the third largest town landmass in the whole state. And so, and we have over 50% wetlands. And being a conservation agent, I can tell you from experience, is not just about permitting. So that's it's, what is it at now, 30 hours, 32?
No, I believe as of July 1st, he'll be 35 hours.
Yeah, I
Oh,
thought it was
good.
full-time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, then that's all
Yeah.
set. Then we're all set with that. And the
Great
vet-
job on that
and the- You read my mind. And then for the veterans, what's the status of
She's
that?
at 30,
She's at
correct?
30, and we actually talked to her because there's really no veterans coming out at night, per se. I don't know that adding 5 additional hours would benefit that department because of the nature of
Okay.
when they...
She pushed back on,
Okay, well, she would know better.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
then you can just take all 3 of mine off. Thank you. That's
And-
great
And I
information.
would say with the conservation agent, again, we did recommend making him full-time.
Good.
Because of the additional duties.
Right,
that I've
it's
never
those
seen in
additional
any other
duties.
town. I know I got complaints about a playground, and come to find out, it's under the Conservation Commission. I
Oh, there's
called
all kinds of
Recreation, I
things.
called O&M, you know.
Yeah, they do way more than just
Yeah.
permitting, yeah. So thank you so much for that, you
All
guys.
right. Mr. Carter, I never would have guessed that your first goal would have been on here, okay? Never.
Now, I pretty much decided that it just needs to go, but that's just my opinion. I think we just need to bite the bullet, pick something and transition out. Everything I've heard from department heads and quite frankly, even, it feeds into my next report is that, I haven't seen a financial report, I don't know when. Where are we on our, revenue and costs to date? It's just something that we have to get back into. I mean, we as a board obviously don't need to know what's going on in every single line item, but I myself, at least on a quarterly basis, would like to see where the revenue is, where the cost centers are going. Even if the director just comes before us for a quick, 15, 20-minute update in the meeting, just so we can kind of talk, we know where our tough spots are. But again, I don't know what the problem is. That I can't get any financial reports. At least I haven't seen any for a while. The other item I got on here is I've heard from many people about the permitting process. I'm not blaming anyone for it. I'm trying to get an understanding of it as to what are the items that delay permitting versus what are the things we can assist with and look at and see if we can streamline. But that's something I'd like to see looked at in the next year.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to interject, Mr. Cotter, that some of the permitting timetables, I believe, are set by state law. I could be wrong on that, but some of that is, there's 20 days to do X, and there's 60 days for the other thing, and so that might be something you would want to find out, if there's anything we can really do about that.
Yeah, I'd like to get educated on everything.
I do know that was one of the even difficulties with King Richard's Fair. Just the fact to be able to have a planning board hearing. They had to advertise in the newspaper.
Yeah,
It
it's a long
has to go out. It was almost a month in advance. Honestly,
Yeah.
it was really quite a.
And that's required.
Right,
there's
it's
nothing.
required. Right,
Yeah.
there's nothing you could do, but that was the fastest timetable you could put together.
Yeah.
All right, anything else, Mr. Carter? Good?
Nope.
All right. And again, Mr. Hoffman's not with us. I'll just read his two goals for the town administrator. Number one, to present a budget process timeline that is agreed upon by both the TA and finance director, and to submit agreed upon check dates to make sure we were on schedule. And number two, attend North Carver Water District Committee meetings and keep the board updated on progress or any issues that may be coming up.
I think you already do that. don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like to do that myself because, again, that transition plan is a critical step for
Yeah.
many different avenues in this town.
I think we
I like to stay on top of
do,
that.
and it does seem like 3 or 4 things keep popping up
Yeah.
in everyone's goals. So I don't think it's going to be too difficult a process to sort of prioritize some things, because it seems like there's a lot of similarity here.
Yeah, how do we want to proceed with this, Mr. Chairman? I think is it 16? And again, I haven't been through this yet to see
Well-
if we could reduce some of these down, because there's been North Carver Water District. I think Mr. Carter said that, right? Is that,
Yeah.
and everybody's list?
It's on almost everybody's
Yeah, it is
list.
almost
Yeah,
everybody's list.
I think it is, and I think what I would suggest to the board is that we pick, again, a number, right? 3, 4, 5, whatever, for both the town administrator and the select board, and I personally think we should rank them. And I think we should do that at the next meeting when we have a full board. I really feel uncomfortable making goals for the board without the full board here.
I appreciate the focus. I can tell you right now, I thought it was successful last year, and I thought it went very well.
Well, last year we didn't rank them.
No, we didn't, but again, they were consolidated down, so I could focus on them and complete them, so, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Again, you don't want to spread yourself too thin is what it comes down to.
No, and I think some things are apparent, and maybe this view, but I think that would be my goal, and I really hate to load too much up on this July 1st agenda, but unfortunately...
It seems to be growing.
Well, there's not much we could do with the licenses earlier, and I think that's the only meeting in the foreseeable future that we're going to have a full board. So I think that's the date to take action.
Sometimes it gets difficult with vacation
So
schedules.
it does. It does. And I think just, I think we need to prioritize by July 1st exactly what meetings we need to have, because we have this July 1st meeting, which obviously we're going to have. We talked about taking July 15th and moving it to, I believe it was July 7th.
7th, yes.
Because we didn't, July 15th was the last date for transfers, and we didn't want to leave everything for the very last date in case there was a problem. But it sounds like you may have scheduled a couple of things for July 15th. So
We may have to move those.
we may have to move those. So I think it's just, we need to, I think by July 1st, let's try to have a more of a set
Okay.
meeting date going forward. And of course, if something comes up and we need an emergency meeting, we need an emergency meeting. But let's try to finalize.
I did think we were holding July 15th too, just in case the transfers.
Well, and I think that's sort of how we left it, is if there was something happened on the 7th and we
Right.
couldn't, or she came up with something else, then we need to take action. But let's try to get everything done by the 7th.
I mean, I don't think you want to wait till the 15th for that last meeting, and then you're really under the gun, so.
Yes, you are. I don't think that's something we want to do. So, okay, we'll go, we're only an hour behind, not bad. Our American Rescue Plan update.
All right, so I apologize, the computer hookup is not working. I don't know what's wrong tonight. And I even went over
I'll tell you right now.
and took Sarah's cord from her to try to get that other document on the screen, and it wasn't working. So there's some exciting updates under the federal ARPA projects. The COA deck is complete, and the invoice will be processed this week. So that was $50,000 balance on that. So that's going in this week to be processed. The deck is open and ready for use.
And they did a beautiful job on it, by the way.
Very nice, yep. The generator for Town Hall, the emergency generator, I'm not sure if anybody saw it. I think it was last week, the week before, it was delivered and installed. And again, that invoice is getting processed this week, and that was about $46,000. So we have almost $100,000 getting processed this week through the federal funds. The UTV for the fire department, we're still awaiting delivery. It is still anticipated, I think they originally said end of June, so we're going to say midsummer because it is at the factory getting worked on. So, it's not like it has to get shipped from, on a container or anything like that.
Okay.
For
If I could, you remember the electric car? We actually saw it moving across the country. It was very odd.
So for,
Yes.
just for an update on the Plymouth County projects, we still have the decommissioning of the wells outstanding for $6,000, and then the municipal well corrosion project. Originally, the staff was working on programming for the alarm, and then they were going to have the DEP inspect. Well, they're still completing DEP requirements, and they're working with vendors who can complete those requirements. So that is a little bit delayed on completing that project.
Okay.
And that
Any
is-
questions from anybody on ARPA projects? Any questions, Mr. Carter?
Nope.
All right. Thank you very much. Our town administrator update.
Sure, I'll go fairly quick here, Mr. Chairman. I know it's getting late. One thing I do want to make the board aware, though, is that the coal millstone is going to be moved out in front of the library, I believe in July. So that is something for us to look forward to.
Why
Can
is it,
anybody give me the history of the coal millstone?
why is it moving from Shirtliff Park?
It is not. It is my understanding it is behind the EMS building, sitting in the contractor yard right now. And it has been there for a while.
Didn't it used to be in Shirtliff Park?
I'm not sure I know the original location of it, but I
Oh, it was at Coles Mill.
Yeah.
That's off High Street.
So it is being moved to the front of the library. Something to look forward to. Ms. Lane just did speak about the COA deck, so as far as I know, completed with furniture on it, so that's ready to go. I do see they're getting very close to the pickleball courts being finished. They are on their punch list. I saw 3 workers out there today, fixing, the fencing was on the wrong side of the post, so it's something they had to address. So hopefully that will be near completion to see if they are ready for that. Mr. Ryan did mention the newsletter. We have a new newsletter. And again, great. It's a little recap of the Veterans Day, Memorial Day Parade. Quite a lot of information in there. So I thought that was very good. Oh, just a reminder to folks, and I don't know if this is one of the select board members going to, we are closed on Thursday for Juneteenth. So that is one thing. Town Hall will be closed for the day. The Board of Health wants you to be aware of wood ticks for the season. So it's just one of the things that happens. And we do have these free wood tick removal kits. So if you go down to the Board of Health office, they will give you one of those ticks. And Mr. Chairman, that is all I have for tonight.
All right, great. Any questions on anything from the board? No. All right. We have the approval of the minutes of June 3rd, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of June 3rd, 2025.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's see, all in favor? Mr. Ryan?
Dan Ryan says aye.
Mark Townsend says aye.
Sarah Hewen says aye.
Mr. Carter?
Carl Carter says aye.
All right. Thank you. And we have the approval of the executive session minutes for June 10th, 2020.
We're going to table those, Mr. Chairman?
That's right. I believe there were some corrections that need to be made. Okay, so we'll table those.
Well, just a question. I thought we were going to be able to approve them, but we need to have minutes for the open session that were not created. So I think we can still approve the executive session minutes. We just can't approve the open session. Is that what we decided?
Well, why don't we double check?
Yeah, let's double check on that, Mr.
Why don't we
Ryan.
double check
Let's
and make sure they're correct?
I know there was some confusion with the minutes, so I
Okay.
just want to get that right.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see, select board announcements. Mr. Carter?
I do not have any.
All right. Ms. Ewens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did want the board to be aware of that the town administrator and the assistant town administrator and I met with the community relations person at Eversource maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that. Very nice fellow. Can't do anything for us. So I had been, originally I spoke with a lawyer who herself had been on the DPU, the Department of Public Utilities, and her suggestion, first of all, was that we should be getting notified about rate public hearings. And I suggested to this person that I personally, in my whole 16 years as select board member, have never heard of a public hearing. So the assistant town administrator, Ms. Weston, looked through her email and searched and found something called energy burden, which none of us would have known what in the world that was talking about. And it wasn't really public hearings. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Weston. It was just, public comments suggested, and none of us knew, of course, so there were no public comments. We brought this to this person's attention. And as I said, they send us a community relations person who has nothing to do with any of these issues, the rate hikes, the electronic notifications, nothing. And he knows that, and he said he's here basically for us to beat him up, and he'll take it back to corporate, and presumably not much will ever get done. I did mention the problem, or I see as a foreseeable problem, that this new program they're starting for replacing gas in certain people's homes, picked randomly, I presume, and they'll get all free electrical appliances. And then I suggested, well, what happens to the rest of us? I guess we'll all have to pay to get that in the future, or they'll just stop working the gas lines. The way the telephone company stops working the landlines, they just don't do repairs. And to me, that's kind of an unacceptable situation. Of course, this guy hasn't any control about that either. And the last thing was just, the bills and the rates. And I brought in my own bill, not because I'm particularly, it's not about me. I think I've said that to him three times. This is what everybody is complaining about, Eversource's bills. And they're just out of the blue, like astronomically, $600 one month. Why? And so we've been told that he will do something. I'm not sure what, but Does town administrator or assistant have anything to add to that? I mean,
Well, one thing I do remember is at one point, I believe you were getting 2 bills a month, which I've actually never heard of
Correct.
before. You know, I thought that was, I don't understand why that happens.
Yep.
You know, and if that's
but I'm
a
sure I'm
normal
not the
thing.
only person,
Yeah,
you know.
And I know you did tell me it was not about you, but this was an example
Mhm.
of the say the heartache that people are facing right now.
Right.
And, you know, some of those bills were quite high.
They were quite high,
Yeah,
and
this
I
is
have
a-
solar panels. So there's no reason for them to be that high. It's
But
crazy.
If we're supposed to get notification of public hearings on rate increases, then I think one thing we should do is get an email out to the public, not just us, but to the public. that
Right,
there's a-
but the
there's a
problem
public
was
hearing.
it was coming to the town clerk's office? Yes, please.
So any email where it says public comment is requested, we do post on our website.
Okay.
So the town clerk's office will always forward it to us, and we will always post it, and the ones we get, we also, if you look on our website under that main news page, they are all posted there. However, to your point, Sarah, you might not know what it's about because it's called energy burden, not...
That's the thing.
Yeah, not electricity price increase here.
Electricity rates increase astronomically. It doesn't say that. So there's no way we would really know what the subject is. At any rate, hopefully at some point we can bring someone in to talk to us, Mr. Chair, who
Yeah, I think
actually...
that's something we've talked about.
Yeah,
so,
but who actually can do something, not just their public relations person.
Well, I think the problem, as we've seen with Eversource in the past, is we can ask, but that doesn't always mean that they comply.
Right.
And we probably need to be a little more forceful
Yeah.
in the future. But, okay.
Well,
All right.
I'm sorry, but I don't think we should leave it there. I think if that's the case, then we as a board should write to the DPU.
Yeah, I think we need to be a little more forceful.
Eversource is a monopoly,
Yeah.
and they need to not pretend that they can just do whatever they want. And
agree.
we should probably try to do something about that.
I agree. I mean, we've seen the problems with Eversource on a number of levels in here,
Yeah.
so. Mr. Ryan?
Okay. The Airport Advisory Committee is meeting a week from Thursday. There is a citizen participation section of that, too, so I encourage, Carver citizens to attend. It's at the airport, and it's usually the fourth Thursday.
And
So
what
it's
time is that?
6 o'clock. So it's a week from Thursday. And then I encourage people, the farmer's market is in full swing on Sunday, so I remind people to encourage them to attend that.
Great. And just finally,
Oh, Mr. Cotter?
yeah. Oh, I'm
He
sorry.
already- you
No, I
already-
went
you
to-
already asked
Oh,
him.
right, he had
He was
nothing.
very number
Right.
one. So finally, the Council on Aging dedicated a garden yesterday to Jim Collins. Jim was someone I had the pleasure of serving with on the Housing Authority for a long time. Just a great guy and had a lot of different stories to tell, had a lot of different life experiences. So it was really nice to see the Council on Aging acknowledge him in that way. And if you have a couple of minutes, stop down and take a look. It's right in front by the ramp entrance, and very nice. So I'm glad they did that, and thank you to them for doing that. So finally, our next meeting is on July 1st, 2025. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And a second? Motion and a second. Mr. Carter?
You're on mute.
I can't hear you, Mr. Carter.
I could read his lips.
John Carver says aye.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Hewens?
Sarah Hewen says aye.
Dan Ryan says aye.
And Mark Townsend says aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you, Area 58.